Welcome, everyone, to The Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Today, we got a few different choices that we might go over. Brian Etten just did a new video. Megyn Kelly had Maureen O'Connell on, the former FBI agent. There's also a couple new videos from this new channel that are going viral, and I want to give people a chance to vote to see which one they'd want to watch. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out and about. But Brian Etten, he interviews this person that is a burglary expert from Pima County. We'll see what he has to say. But it's just a matter of what we're going to see first. Are we going to watch Megyn Kelly first, interview Maureen O'Connell? I don't know. But how are you today, Tron? We're going to wait for some people to come in here. Remnant is now Mac again. Got a new name every day. It's hard to keep up with. Jen, how are you? Rogelli, how are you? Like I said, today, there's this new channel called Unresolved or Crime Unresolved. They've made some viral videos. I can't even tell if it's AI or not. I don't think it is. But they break down a lot of the case and make some interesting points. I'm not saying I agree with all of the points, but it might be an interesting thing to go over. Denise, how are you? Welcome. If you mean Jennifer Koffendorfer, Tron, probably not. Danielle, welcome. How is everyone? Joe Pags, we will watch him at a point, but I don't think he's got any new videos on the subject matter. He's run out because they're really, like, they're going to go over that video. Brian Etten goes over that video a little bit, and so does Maureen and Megyn Kelly. Lucia, how are you? CMP, how are you? Tim, welcome. So once there's maybe 300 to 500 people in here, I'll give people a chance to vote what they'd want to see first. What's shaking? Please remember to like the video on the way in here too. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl. El Paso's in the house. I'd love to see it. So again, I guess we put the vote in now. So do you want to watch the one that's a viral video that's new? It's a brand new channel. I don't know if it's AI or not, honestly, but it brings up a lot of interesting points. So do you want to watch that? Hello, Livin. So do you want to watch that video that's viral, that's from a new channel, Brian Etten, or Megyn Kelly and Maureen? So press 1 for that new viral video that goes over basically a whole summary of the entire case with some theories in there too. Or 2 for Brian Etten, 3 for Megyn Kelly and Maureen. Those are the options, and we can wind up watching them all anyway. But, all right, well, looks like unanimously people want to watch the first one first, the viral buddy. And then we'll do Brian Etten. All right. So let's see.
Red sense.
My Lord. Every time you do this, it goes back to the slowest speed again. It's ridiculous. All right.
The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is the most talked about case in America right now. Type her name into any search engine and you will drown in results. Press conferences, FBI updates, Ring doorbell footage analyzed frame by frame, ransom notes, Bitcoin.
And so again, I'm not saying I agree with everything in this video, by the way, but it does bring up some interesting things to discuss. The title of this video is, Are the Missing Pieces Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni? And Cioni is how it's pronounced, with a C-H-O-N-E. Cioni. Tommaso Cioni. I was pronouncing it Cioni before, but that is not correct.
wallets, DNA profiles that match nobody in the system. Everyone has a theory. Everyone thinks they know what happened. I have spent the last 3 weeks going through every press conference, every leaked document, every interview, every public record I could find connected to this case. Court filings, property records, Google Trends data, banned pages, criminal background checks. I have read things that made me stop and reread them 3 times because I did not believe what I was looking at. The story most people are following right now is a straightforward one. A stranger targeted an elderly woman, broke into her home in the middle of the night, and took her. That is the story the sheriff is telling. That is the story the headlines are.
And so I think some of this, he artificially enhanced, I think, some of these pictures. So like you notice how they look so different and so clear. I don't know if he did used AI to do that or what.
Selling. And if you only look at the surface, it holds together. But underneath that surface, there is another story. One built on timelines that do not add up, relationships that raise questions nobody wants to ask, and a trail of coincidences so specific and so layered that calling them coincidences starts to feel like a choice. I am not here to accuse anyone. I am here to show you what I've found. And by the end of this video, the version of this case you thought you understood is not going to look the same. It starts with a man walking backward.
And so again, to reiterate, Annie's car still impounded, still in the investigation. And we can guesstimate what that means, right? So this is the video here he goes over, and I don't even agree with this part, but he's saying that this is something here. This is him, is what he's saying. Now, we know the police and Sheriff Nanos have said this video, the guy in this video is cleared. That's what we know, right? And the other thing about it is this video, I think, is from the same night of Nancy's disappearance. It is just 5 miles away. We called this double backpack guy. This guy has been cleared. But again, is that really true? I don't know.
On January 23rd, 2026, a video appeared on the Ring Neighbors app. A man, late at night, walking backward up a residential driveway in the Catalina foothills. Not stumbling, not drunk, walking backward with deliberate, measured steps, keeping his back flat against the camera, his chin tucked to his chest. Now I need you to understand why walking backward matters.
And so I don't even know what he means by walking backward, though. Like, what does that mean in this context? Having his back to a camera that he knows is there? I don't know. But what do you think he means by that?
Consumer security cameras like Ring and Nest do not record around the clock. They sleep. They rely on passive infrared sensors to detect body heat and motion. When someone steps into the frame, the sensor has to wake up the processor. The lens adjusts to the low light. The Wi-Fi establishes a handshake with the server. That process takes 1 to 2 seconds. If you walk forward, that first second captures your face as you approach. But by walking backward, the suspect ensures that during those critical wake-up seconds, the camera captures nothing but the back of a hoodie and a backpack. By the time the lens is fully recording, his face is already shielded. He is physically hacking the camera's lag time with his body. This is not the behavior of a random prowler. This is the behavior of someone who has studied how the technology works, someone who has done research. And here is the part that stopped me cold. The backpack he is wearing in this January 23rd footage is visually identical to the one seen at Nancy Guthrie's house 9 days later. The Ozark Trail 25-liter hiker pack with those distinct reflective safety strips. Same bag, different house, 6.5 miles away. In what can only be
But where is the walking backwards, though? I have not seen anyone walking backwards. That's my point.
described as a dress rehearsal. The location matters. 6.5 miles from Nancy's home. In forensic geography, this is what investigators call a buffer zone. Far enough from the target to avoid any immediate connection if he gets caught, but close enough to replicate the exact environment. Both locations are in the Catalina foothills. Both feature isolated desert
And like I said, this video definitely could be AI. It's about bringing up interesting points of the discussion either way.
homes with long driveways. Both have the same dark sky ordinances, meaning minimal street lighting and deep pools of darkness. He was not picking a random house to test. He was selecting a simulator. And when a dog barked, look at what he did. He fled. But he maintained his backward orientation. He suppressed the biological reflex to turn toward the sound. He would rather trip and fall than give the camera a single frame of his face. That level of discipline does not come from panic. It comes from preparation. Now compare that man to the man on Nancy's porch 9 days later. On January 23rd, the suspect is terrified, hunched, paranoid about every pixel. But on February 1st, he is not walking backward anymore. He is walking forward. He is calm. He saunters.
And that's another part I disagree with. There was no walking backwards. And I kind of think it is not that much different than that video that he photoed first, because for two reasons. One, that person was cleared, and it was not 9 days before. And I was looking back at it. They said that double backpack video was from the same night, not 9 days before. But this is the reason why we're playing the video, because there's things to address here. And there's a lot of people that are watching that video, this video that we're playing right now. It's become like a lot of people think, oh, he's on to something. This is absolutely true. And he made another video today that's going to blow by this one in views. So that's why it's important to go over AI or not.
Up to the front door with a level of confidence that is genuinely unsettling. And then he does something that made me watch the footage 4 times. He reaches out and taps the camera lens. Twice. Casual. Rhythmic. Like someone checking a microphone. Like someone tapping a piece of furniture they walk past every single day. 9 days ago, he was so afraid of the camera that he walked in reverse to avoid it. Now he is reaching out and physically touching it, taunting it. What happened in those 9 days? The answer is simple. The January 23rd video was his test, his classroom. He was the student, and because the police did not show up at his door the next morning, he learned the most dangerous lesson a criminal can learn. He learned he was invisible. By the time he arrived at Nancy's house, he was no longer testing, he was executing. Drop a comment right now and
yeah, this definitely could be AI. I'm just not sure if it is or not. That's the tricky part. I don't know if it is. I can't tell. When it's a faceless channel like this, it makes it 100 times more difficult to tell. Could it be a human voice? Maybe. But could it be AI? Also true. I don't know.
Tell me what side you are on after watching this video, because the details I'm about to walk you through have split the internet in half. Some people think the man I am about to name is a grieving son-in-law. Others think he is the most dangerous person in this investigation. By the end, you are going to have to choose. Let us get into it. There is a house in Tucson, Arizona, 4 miles from Nancy Guthrie's front door, a 10-minute drive with zero traffic at 2 in the morning. In that house lives Annie Guthrie, Nancy's oldest daughter, and her husband Tommaso Cioni. Annie is a poet, a jeweler. She works at the University of Arizona Poetry Center. In a 2013 interview, she called her husband her greatest teacher and described him as a great manifester. She said he writes.
And again, either way, even if it's AI, it still brings up some interesting points that we can go over. It's actually probably going to be more interesting than the Brian Etten video and the Megyn Kelly and Maureen video, only because they don't have anything really new to talk about.
Writes poetry with his lifestyle. Remember that phrase, a great manifester, because it is going to sit differently by the end of this video. Tommaso Cioni is a 50-year-old science teacher. He has taught advanced placement biology at a charter school in Tucson for over 15 years. He was born in San Giovanni Valdarno, a small town in Tuscany. He moved to Arizona in 2006. He plays bass in a local band called Early Black. He makes homemade pasta. He forages for mushrooms. He studies lizards. By every public account, he is a quiet, unremarkable man living an unremarkable life in the desert. He is also the last person to see Nancy Guthrie alive. On the evening of January 31st, Nancy spent the evening at Annie and Tommaso's house. Dinner, games, family time. Now here's the first thing I need you to pay attention to. There are conflicting reports about what happened next. Some sources say Tommaso drove Nancy home and confirmed she was safely inside at approximately 9:50 p.m.
Yeah, and as far as I know, we don't know who was in that car when they dropped Nancy off? Was it Annie? Was it Tommaso? Or was it both of them? I've yet to hear a clear answer about that. Have you? I have not heard an answer. But whatever the answer is, Annie's car is still impounded. That's a fact.
Other sources say Annie drove her home. Others say it was both of them. The story has changed depending on who is telling it and when. In a case where every minute matters, the fact that we still do not have a consistent answer about who was the last person to physically see Nancy alive is not a small detail. It is a foundational one. At 1:47 a.m., the Nest camera system at Nancy's home was manually disconnected. If we take the 9:50 p.m. drop-off, that is, a gap of 3 hours and 57 minutes, call it 4 hours. 4 hours is an eternity. It is more than enough time to drive home, wait for the neighborhood to fall asleep, change into a disguise, drive back, park at a safe distance, walk to the house, execute the plan, and be back in your own bed before anyone wakes up. No confirmed alibi for Tommaso during that window has been made public. No confirmed alibi for Annie either. They live in the same house. Whatever alibi one has, the other provides. Think about that. Now let us talk about what happened on that porch, because the body language is where this case cracks open. The intruder did not behave like a stranger. Body language experts and former federal agents have pointed out that the suspect moves through the space with the subconscious confidence of someone who has been there many times before. He does not search for the camera.
So do you think he's moving through with the subconscious confidence of someone who's been there before? What do you think? Press 1 if you think yes, this person's been there before. Press 2 if no, you do not think they've been there before, this person in the Nest cam.
He walks directly to it. He does not hesitate at the front door. He knows the layout of the porch, the position of the potted plant he uses to cover the lens, the exact spot where the camera sits. In criminal profiling, this is called ownership behavior. It is a state of mind where the perpetrator feels they have a legitimate right to be in that specific space. He does not act like a thief in a stranger's home. He acts like an owner in his own backyard. That rhythmic tap on the camera lens is not a calculated criminal move. It is a habitual gesture, the kind of thing you do to an object you see every single day. Now ask yourself this. Who else would have the mental blueprint of Nancy's home burned into their brains so deeply that they could navigate it in the dark without a single moment of hesitation? Who knew where every camera was? Who knew she did not have an active Nest subscription? Who knew her routine, her bedtime, her medications, the layout of her entry points? Tommaso Cioni had dinner at that house regularly. He helped Nancy with errands. He and Annie assisted with property management. He had been walking through that front door for nearly 2 decades. If there is anyone on earth whose subconscious muscle memory would produce that exact pattern of movement on that porch, it is the man who was standing on it 4 hours earlier. But this is where the case takes a turn that I cannot stop thinking about. Because if Tommaso Cioni is one of the most suspicious people in this investigation, he is also one of the most paradoxical. Look at the suspect's gear, a $22 ski mask from a sporting goods store, in Tucson, in the desert, where it does not snow. How many people are buying ski masks in Tucson in January? That purchase alone.
So again, do you think the people that did this, did they know that the Nest Cam subscription was not even valid? Easily could, right? Especially if they knew them, whoever it was.
Alone stands out in any transaction database. A $10 pack of nitrile gloves, a $20 Ozark Trail backpack from Walmart with reflective safety strips that glow like a neon sign under infrared light, and a belly band holster strapped over a thick jacket, flopping around loosely, worn completely wrong. A former Secret Service agent said no one with even a single day of tactical training would wear a firearm like that. The whole kit cost less than $100.
And again, they were calling that a Mexican carry. That's what everyone was saying. In the right pocket, pointed towards the you-know-what.
It screams incompetence. Now compare that image to the man we are scrutinizing. Tommaso Cioni is not a drifter. He is not uneducated. He teaches advanced placement biology. To teach at that level, you need a high degree of organization, critical thinking, and an understanding of cause and effect. You have to be intelligent. You have to be methodical. So the defense from his supporters is loud and clear. Tommaso is too smart to be this stupid. But I want you to flip that on its head. Step into the mind of a highly intelligent person who is planning a crime they do not want traced back to them. If you are a smart, logical science teacher and you want to kidnap someone without getting caught, what is the number one thing you need? You need the police to look for someone who is not you. So what do? You create a character. You perform a role. You deliberately buy the cheapest, most incorrect gear you can find at a big box store. You wear the holster wrong on purpose. You want the FBI profilers to sit in a room and say they are looking for an addict or a transient. So they stop looking at the respected educator with the master's degree. This concept is called calculated incompetence. And if that is what happened here, we have to admit something terrifying. It is
Calculated incompetence is an interesting term. In the narcissistic abuse space, we have a term called weaponized incompetence, and that's when someone acts like they can't do something so that the other person does it for them. But this is a different version of it, calculated incompetence. So, and this is something we went over the other night. We asked, do you think the people on this porch here tried to make it seem like they were more amateurs than a novice? And that would be what? A more sophisticated way to say that is that calculated incompetence. So again, do you think it was calculated incompetence? Press 1 if you think so. Press 2 if no, it just is what it looks like.
working. It is working because right now we are debating it. The clumsiness is not a mistake. It might be the most sophisticated part of the entire plan. And there is one more layer to the gear that nobody is talking about enough. The gloves. Black nitrile gloves. Not leather tactical gloves. Not latex surgical gloves. Nitrile. These are the gloves used in laboratories, food service, and home repair. Now think about who uses nitrile gloves every single day as part of their job. Biology teachers. Tommaso Cioni runs AP biology labs, where students handle specimens, chemicals, and biological material. Nitrile gloves are standard equipment in his classroom. Having a box of them in his garage is not suspicious. It is expected. And that is exactly the...
So the question was, do you think the person on the Nest Cam was using calculated incompetence? Meaning they were trying to make it seem like they were amateurs, even though they are not. 2 would be, no, they were either amateurs or they were professionals or amateurs, but they were not trying to pretend to be something they were not. So 1, calculated incompetence, they were trying to pretend to be something they're not. Or 2, no, they just are what they are.
Problem. The ordinariness of the gloves makes them invisible. The suspect also knew there were additional Nest cameras beyond the doorbell. The sheriff confirmed investigators are trying to recover footage from other cameras on the property, but Nancy did not have subscriptions for those either. Whoever entered that house knew the entire camera layout and knew that none of them were storing footage. That is not information you get from a Google image search. That is information you get from being inside the home, from helping set the cameras up, from hearing Nancy say she did not want to pay for the monthly subscription, from being family. Now I need to talk about something that very few people have connected to this case, and I want you to listen carefully because the timing is what matters. In February 2024,
And as I've been saying, easily this video could be AI. I just don't know the answer to that. But that's not the point. The point is the topics they're addressing. And they do bring up some good points, AI or not.
Almost exactly 1 year before Nancy disappeared, Savannah Guthrie published a book called Mostly What God Does. In that book, she described a childhood tradition. Every summer, her older cousin Terry would orchestrate...
Yes, Tommaso and Annie were cleared, but the same people who cleared them are the very same people that opened up the crime scene too soon. The same people that cleared them are the very same people that contradicted Ashley Banfield and her source in law enforcement very intentionally. The same people that cleared them are the same people that contradicted Brian Etten's source that the Nest Cam footage came from 2 separate days. So my point in saying this is, just because they said it, law enforcement, doesn't mean it's true in any way. Annie's car is still impounded. Is that what it looks like? Are those the actions of someone that is completely cleared to still have their car in evidence? I don't know. Nancy Guthrie's car is still in evidence too, apparently.
What the family called a kidnapping of Savannah and her sister Annie. The cousin would wake them up before dawn, pile them into a station wagon, and drive them from Tucson to Phoenix. Along the way, the girls would call Nancy from a payphone and say, "Mom, Cousin Terry kidnapped us." And Nancy would play along. She would pretend to be shocked. She would promise to come get them in a few days. I am going to say that again. Savannah Guthrie published a book in which she described her family playing kidnapping games. From the same house in Tucson, with her sister Annie, and their mother Nancy played along on the phone. 1 year later, the game became real. I am not drawing a connection. I am telling you what is written in a published book that anyone could buy on Amazon for the last 2 years. You can decide what to do with it. Now let us follow the money. Because in every investigation, money is either a motive or a red herring. And in this case, the numbers tell a very specific story. Nancy's home in the Catalina foothills is valued at approximately $1 million. She has owned it since 1985. Annie and Tommaso's home, 2 miles away, is valued at roughly $650,000. Tommaso's income as a high school teacher puts his household well below 7 figures. Meanwhile, Savannah Guthrie's estimated net worth is $40 million. She earns millions annually from NBC. The ransom demand was for $6 million in Bitcoin. That number was not random.
Jamie, are you going to use your words or are you just going to complain? Use your words or go away.
Someone calculated it. Someone who understood the financial architecture of this family. Someone who knew what Savannah could afford and what would sound believable. An unverified document surfaced online showing that on May 16, 2025, Tommaso Cioni signed a durable power of attorney, giving his wife Annie control over all of his financial, personal, and property-related affairs. Legal experts will tell you this is routine for real estate closings, and they are right. Power of attorney documents are filed every day. But the timing, May 2025, that is 8 months before Nancy disappeared, and it falls in the exact same window as the earliest Google searches for Nancy's home address. Someone in Arizona was Googling Nancy's address starting in March of 2025. By May, Tommaso was reorganizing his legal affairs. By June, the address was searched again. By December, someone searched Savannah Guthrie's salary from Tucson. Does that mean the power of attorney is connected? I cannot say that definitively, but I can say that in the spring and summer of 2025, while someone in Arizona was researching Nancy Guthrie's home, Tommaso Cioni was putting his legal house in order. And if you were planning an operation that might result in your arrest or your need to disappear, transferring control of your assets to your spouse is not routine. It is preparation. And Annie is the one who ends up holding everything.
Now, I don't know if that's true. I'd have to look into that to know for sure if Annie has these assets. I have not seen that confirmed. So don't take that part as gospel in any way.
That brings us to Annie. And this is where I need to be very careful, because Annie Guthrie is not someone the media has focused on. But the investigation has. Her vehicle was towed and impounded as part of this case. Ashley Banfield reported this on her podcast, citing a law enforcement source she described as very connected and highly regarded. The sheriff later said processing the car was standard investigative practices. But think about what impounding means. You do not impound a family member.
Nope. No one can get sued from this. For one, it is not my video. It is someone else's video. It is their opinion. They're not stating it as fact. The only way to get sued for defamation is to know something is false, be saying it anyway, and then have a clear and demonstrable loss of financial income. That's it. The same with slander, the same with whatever the other word is. So no, you cannot get sued from this, especially if it's not you. Take a page out of Candace Owens' book. What did she do in episode 1 against Erica Kirk? She read that woman Elizabeth's thing. She did that very intentionally because it was not her. She's just reading what Elizabeth wrote about Erica Kirk, right? That's how you don't get sued. So try again. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Car in a stranger abduction. You impound a vehicle when you believe it may have been used in the commission of a crime or when it may contain forensic evidence. What did they find in that vehicle? What were they looking for? The public has not been told. Investigators searched Annie and Tommaso's home multiple times. They photographed rooms. They removed security cameras from the property. And here's the detail that made me pause. They examined the septic tank. CNN affiliate KNXV filmed investigators probing the tank with a long stick and using flashlights to peer inside. You do not search a septic tank unless you are looking for something that someone tried to destroy or conceal. Annie and Tommaso both went dark publicly after the first week. Reporter Brian Enton, who has been on the ground in Tucson since the beginning, reported that Tommaso had not been seen in almost a week. He said the last time cameras caught him was outside the house with Annie, in a car together.
And here's the thing, none of this can be defamation, libel, or slander because none of it is demonstrably false, right? It's only slander or any of those things if it's demonstrably false. Right now, none of them are demonstrably false. And I don't think you can use the fact that the sheriff has said, oh, they're cleared. Well, officially, according to other people, you have to be a lawyer to clear someone, not the sheriff. And especially when there's no suspects anyway. There's no arrest, no suspects. So who is cleared? Nobody. This is an opinion piece. You can't get sued for opinions, believe it or not.
Then silence, both of them, at the same time. And remember the conflicting stories about who dropped Nancy off. Some reports say Tommaso, some say Annie, some say both. In an investigation where the last person to see the victim alive is always the first person examined, that inconsistency is not nothing. It is either confusion or coordination, and investigators know the difference. Now, we need to talk about something that makes the online community very uncomfortable. Tommaso Cioni's inner circle. He plays bass in a Tucson band called Early Black. One of his bandmates is a man named Dominic Evans. Court records from Pima County show that Evans has been charged with felony burglary, robbery, theft, and embezzlement. When Ashley Banfield named Tommaso as a possible suspect, internet investigators immediately started vetting his social circle. Evans was the first name to surface. A SWAT team later raided a location in the area connected to the broader investigation. Think about what that criminal record means in the context of this case. Burglary, robbery. These are not petty offenses. These are crimes that require entering properties and taking things from people. If Tommaso needed someone who understood the mechanics of breaking into a home, someone who had done it before.
So there is speculation. This guy on the left here, Dominic Evans, some people are questioning, is this the person in the Nest cam? Maybe. I can't say one way or the other. People are specifically saying his little scar on his lip. And again, this guy has a video. I can't tell if the video is doctored to make a scar on the lip or not. But if you can see that in the real Nest cam footage, that could be an indicator.
Someone who would not freeze at the front door. He would not have to look very far. He would just have to look at the man standing next to him at band practice. I want to be clear. There is no confirmed evidence linking Dominic Evans to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. But the proximity matters. The criminal background matters. And the fact that he exists in Tommaso's immediate social circle matters. Because the sheriff has publicly said he has not ruled out an accomplice. And the forensic evidence supports that. The FBI found two...
I definitely think there's more than one person involved. And again, when it comes to Tommaso or that guy, Dominic Evans, I don't know one way or the other for sure. Is it a possibility? I think it's a possibility. I'm not ruling it out. But I'm not saying it definitely is either. Some people are. Some people say, oh, that's definitely it. I was like, I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. But if you're here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And I go live every night to talk about true crime and current events. And there's an awesome flock of black sheep here in the live chat. Come in and say hello. We got an awesome group of people here. And we're usually very nice and supportive, unless yours truly is being a little bit sassy. But remember, sassy is classy.
Separate DNA profiles. One on a glove discarded 2 miles from the house. One inside the home itself. They do not match each other. They do not match anyone in Nancy's family. And they do not match anyone in CODIS. 2 DNA profiles, 2 locations, 2 people. That is not speculation. That is mathematics. Something left genetic material inside Nancy's home, and something different left genetic material inside a glove along a potential escape route. If there are 2 people involved in this crime, then every theory about a lone wolf stalker becomes weaker. and every theory about an organized operation with an architect and an operative becomes stronger. And here's the dark psychology of this case that nobody is talking about enough. The backward walker video from January 23rd was posted by a regular homeowner on the Ring Neighbors app. This is basically a social media network for local security. People post suspicious activity, stray dogs, package thieves. But in a case this calculated, there is a very high probability that the kidnapper is also on that app. He is not just a ghost in the machine. He is a subscriber. A predator who conducts a dress rehearsal 9 days in advance is obsessed with the result. He likely spent the next morning refreshing the Neighbors app feed for that zip code. He was waiting to see if anyone noticed him. He was monitoring the community chatter to measure his own invisibility. And when he saw that the video was posted but nobody could identify him, it gave him something more dangerous than luck. It gave him confirmation. The very technology we use to feel safe was weaponized as a feedback loop. He used the community's own alert network to validate his disguise, and that validation is what gave him the confidence to walk forward instead of backward 9 days later. The ransom notes were
I still don't understand what the walking backwards thing is.
sent to TMZ and local Arizona news outlets, not to Savannah Guthrie directly, not to the family, to the media. A professional kidnapper negotiates in private. They do not invite the press into the conversation. But someone who wants to create the appearance of an outside threat, someone who wants the world to believe a stranger did this, they go to the media. Because every headline about a random kidnapper is another layer of distance between the real perpetrator and the investigation. The TMZ.
The name of this channel that we're watching is called Crime Unresolved. It's a brand new channel, 5 videos. This is, I think it's maybe 4th video, and it went viral. And now they did a video today that's probably going to go more viral than this one even.
The tipster who first reported the ransom demand used the phrase, the main individual. The main individual. That language implies a hierarchy. It implies more than one person. It implies that whoever contacted TMZ understood the operation had layers. And the Bitcoin wallet where the ransom was supposed to be paid, it has remained completely silent. Zero activity. The FBI sent a small amount of money to it as a trap, a digital mousetrap. They are watching that wallet around the clock, waiting for someone to log in and check the balance. The moment someone accesses it, their device sends a signal, IP address, location, device identifier, but nobody has touched it, and that tells us something critical. A professional criminal enterprise would move that money immediately. They would know how to access it anonymously. But this suspect is paralyzed. He knows it is a trap, or he is too afraid to make a move. This is the profile of someone who is educated enough to set up a Bitcoin wallet, but not experienced enough to understand how to use it safely. A science teacher. Someone who knows how things work in theory, but lacks the criminal experience to execute in practice. Now here is something that should make everyone watching uncomfortable about the bigger picture. The Today Show. Since Savannah stepped away, the show has rocketed back to #1 in ratings. It has taken a commanding lead over Good Morning America, especially in the advertiser demographic of viewers aged 25 to 50. Savannah's tragedy is NBC's best ratings period. I am not suggesting NBC has anything to do with this case, but I am pointing out that the longer this story...
And I agree. This video, I don't agree with everything this video is saying. I think it's very likely AI, but that's not the point. The point is it does make some interesting points and provides us some interesting material for discussion. That's the point of playing it. And not to mention, there's a lot of people who are jumping on the board with this and they're acting like this guy is completely correct. And the video he made today is completely correct. Why don't you send this video to the FBI? So that's why it's worth going over. It's in the public sentiment right now. This is not an endorsement of everything this video is saying.
Story stays in the news, the more money it generates. And the question of who benefits from a story staying alive is always worth asking, even when the answer is uncomfortable. Sources told News Nation that Savannah is considering a permanent exit from the show. She reportedly feels her mother was targeted because of her job and does not want to put her family at risk. One television executive said there is no way Savannah is coming back. There were already rumors she was considering leaving at the end of 2026. The kidnapping may have accelerated that timeline. But here is where that detail connects to the conspiracy. If Savannah leaves the Today Show, her income changes, her visibility changes, the family's financial structure changes. And whoever planned this crime did so with a very specific understanding of that financial structure. They knew what Savannah earned. They Googled it from Tucson. Now we have to stop and be fair, because as tightly as these coincidences coil around Tommaso Cioni and Annie Guthrie, there are facts that push back against the theory. The height. An investigative journalist who has studied public photographs of Tommaso concluded that he is notably taller than the 5'9" to 5'10" range the FBI described.
This is true. This is true, right? So when you see pictures of Tommaso and the other guy, Tommaso towers over him, right?
If accurate, Tommaso is not the man on the porch, but that does not clear him of involvement. It clears him of being the executor. If there are two people involved, the architect and the operative do not have to be the same person. The official clearance. On February 16th, Sheriff Nanos formally cleared the entire Guthrie family. He said they were cleared in the first few days. He said they have given up their phones, computers, cars, and houses. He told the media to stop speculating and called the family victims plain and simple. But here is what most people do not understand about how investigations work. Cleared does not mean exonerated. Cleared means the current evidence does not support charging them. In high-profile investigations,
And hey, that's a good distinction. Cleared does not equal exonerated, because cleared just means that right now there's not enough evidence to charge them. I think that's a good distinction.
clearing family members publicly is a tactical decision. It removes media pressure. It allows investigators to work without scrutiny. And critically, it can make a guilty party relax. When the sheriff goes on camera and says you are not a suspect, the natural human response is to let your guard down, to stop being careful, to make a phone call you would not have made yesterday, to check a Bitcoin wallet you have been afraid to touch. Clearing someone is not always an ending.
This is true. Mike, thank you very much for the super chat, Mike. No body, her SS and accounts will remain open 5 years. Yeah, I wasn't sure how long they stay open for, but right now there is no homicide because there is no body. You are correct. Thank you, Mike, for that.
Sometimes it is a strategy. The DNA found inside Nancy's home does not match any family member. That is significant. If Tommaso was physically present during the abduction, his DNA was not found. Either he was extraordinarily careful, which is consistent with a...
The point of saying cleared is just because someone's cleared now doesn't mean they can't be charged later. That's the point. There's been people have cleared before, and then they come back around and say, actually, we changed our mind. And you're not cleared, and now you're charged. That's the point. The point is that can happen.
Science teacher who understands biological evidence and how to avoid leaving it. Or he was not physically there, which is consistent with the accomplice theory. Or the DNA belongs to someone else entirely, which means the real answer is still sitting in a lab somewhere. And then there is the stalker theory. The possibility that a stranger with an obsessive fixation on Savannah Guthrie targeted Nancy as a proxy, a soft target, the path of least resistance to the real object of their obsession. This theory explains the ownership behavior differently, not as physical familiarity with the house, but as delusional entitlement. The suspect believed he belonged there because in his twisted reality, he was already part of the family. It explains the ransom notes sent to the media as a cry for attention, not a demand for money. And it explains the Bitcoin silence as someone who never cared about the money in the first place. But here is what the stalker theory does not explain. It does not explain the dress rehearsal 9 days earlier, a delusional...
So this is why I disagree with this part. I think the stalking theory could definitely be a thing, but that double backpack video wasn't 9 days earlier. Like, that was the night of Nancy's disappearance. So the reason he's saying the stalking theory couldn't be true is something that I don't think is accurate, because that video was not 9 days ago. That was, as far as I know, that video, double backpack guy, that has also been cleared, by the way, that was the night of Nancy's disappearance. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, but I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
individual driven by obsession does not conduct methodical test runs at buffer zone distances. That is operational planning. It does not explain the specific knowledge of Nancy's camera system and subscription status. A stranger would not know she lacked an active Nest account, and it does not explain.
And that's true. Mindy Mouse, thank you very much for this. Hi, Jared in chat, she says. Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the super chat. Super chats are a great way to support the channel and get questions answered. And again, do you think it was luck that this person realized that Nancy didn't have a Nest Cam subscription? Was it luck, or was it very knowingly? So press 1 if you think this was luck. They just got lucky that Nancy had no Nest Cam subscription. Or 2, no, they knew it. They knew that she didn't, and that also helped them do what they did. So 1 for luck, 2 for no, it was intentional, and they knew.
Explain why FBI agents have visited the son-in-law's home at least 5 times, searched his septic tank, impounded his wife's vehicle, removed their security cameras, and carried biological evidence out in a paper bag. Megyn Kelly said it on her show. The reason they keep going back to Annie and Tommaso's house is because they are wondering if they had anything to do with it. She said she does not understand why investigators would be interviewing the neighbors over and over, asking specifically about Annie and Tommaso and what they are like, unless they are building something. So where does this leave us? On one side, a couple...
And again, I don't know if that's what they're even asking either. He just said law enforcement's going around asking neighbors what are Tommaso and Annie like. I haven't heard that. I mean, maybe it's true, but I haven't heard that.
Couple living 4 miles from the victim, the last people to see her alive. A 4-hour window with no public alibi.
And by the way, the vast majority of the chat thinks that it was very intentional, and they knew that the Nest Cam had no subscription.
Ownership behavior on the porch, calculated incompetence in the gear, nitrile gloves from a biology teacher's toolkit, a power of attorney signed 8 months before the crime, a bandmate with felony burglary charges, an impounded vehicle, a searched septic tank, a property value gap, a book about kidnapping games published 1 year before the real kidnapping, and a paper bag carried out of their house by federal agents. On the other side, the official position. No suspects, family cleared, DNA that does not match, a height discrepancy, and the possibility that a complete stranger studied Nancy Guthrie's home for months and arrived with a plan that fell apart the moment it made contact with reality. Right now, as you watch this video, that paper bag is almost certainly sitting in a forensic laboratory. Technicians are comparing whatever was inside it against the DNA from the glove found on the roadside, and the DNA recovered from inside Nancy's home. The genealogy databases are building family trees from partial matches. Every branch leads to more branches, and eventually those branches narrow to a name. If that name is connected to the people who had dinner with Nancy 4 hours before she disappeared, then every coincidence we just walked through was not a coincidence at all. It was a pattern. And the amateur disguise, the Walmart gear, the wrong holster, the reflective backpack, all of it was a performance designed to make us look everywhere, except at the people who already had the keys to the front door. But if that name belongs to a stranger, then Tommaso Cioni is exactly what he appears to be. A quiet science teacher from Tuscany whose life was destroyed by suspicion because he had the misfortune of being the last person to say goodnight. And Annie Guthrie is a poet whose car was impounded and whose septic tank was searched because the internet decided she was guilty before the evidence did. The DNA does not care about our theories. The DNA does not care about coincidences or body language or power of attorney documents or published books about kidnapping games. The DNA will deliver a verdict that no amount of acting can hide, and we are closer to that verdict than most people realize. But before you go, think about this. The January 23rd dress rehearsal video did not just give investigators a second crime to analyze. It gave them a second date to investigate. Until that video surfaced, the entire investigation was hanging on a single 4-hour window on the night of February 1st. Any suspect only had to account for where they were between 9:50 p.m. and 2 a.m. on that specific night. If they had a sleeping spouse or a phone charging on a nightstand, they were safe. But now, the game has changed. The FBI is no longer just asking, "Where were you the night Nancy disappeared?" Now they are asking, where were you on January 23rd at 2 a.m.? And this is the part that should terrify whoever did this. It is relatively easy to manufacture an alibi for the night of an actual crime. You know it is coming. You plan your defense at the same time you plan your offense. You leave your phone at home. You park your car in the driveway. You create a digital dummy. But January 23rd was a rehearsal, a random night a week before the main event. The suspect did not know he was going to be caught on camera. He did not know a dog would bark. Because he felt safe and invisible, he likely got sloppy. His personal phone.
I mean, I think they knew. I think they just didn't know if they'd be able to get that subscription out, right, from the Nest Cam, because they did disable it right away. If you think the Nest Cam having no subscription means it's not going to be any video, I mean, would you still take it? I don't know.
Phone was probably in his pocket. He probably drove his own registered vehicle. He did not bother creating a fake digital footprint because he did not think anyone would ever notice. The FBI is undoubtedly conducting what is known as a tower dump. They are pulling records for every cell tower covering the area 6.5 miles from Nancy's home on the night of January 23rd.
And this January 23rd part, I think he made it up because I have not heard anything about this being January 23rd, which is tricky because the rest of the video, a lot of it's like, most of it's true. But where is he getting this January 23rd thing from? I have not heard it. I heard this video was from the same night of Nancy's disappearance.
They are looking for every device that connected to those towers between 1 and 3 a.m. Then, they are overlaying that list with the devices detected near Nancy's home on February 1st. They are hunting for the one phone number that appears in both data sets. If Tommaso Cioni's phone, or Annie's phone, or the phone of anyone in their circle, appears at the rehearsal site on January 23rd and near the crime scene on February 1st, there is no defense attorney in the world who can explain that away. Faking an alibi for one specific night is difficult but possible. Faking an alibi for 2 random nights separated by 9 days, without knowing that the police are looking at the first date, is impossible.
And again, I wouldn't pay attention to that part. But the Tommaso part, I mean, this is what Ashley Banfield reported in the first week. Tommaso's a suspect. Because her source in law enforcement said so. But then Sheriff Nano said, no, he's not. There are no suspects. And then the family and their spouse are cleared. So he went out of his way to contradict her. But this is what Ashley Banfield's source said.
The suspect might have worn a mask to hide his face, but he could not mask the signal pinging from his pocket. And right now, that signal may be the loudest witness in the entire case. So I have to turn this over to you. You have seen the evidence. You have seen the coincidences. You have heard the counter-arguments. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Do you believe this is the tragic story of a family caught in a nightmare they did not create? Or do you believe the nightmare was created from inside the family itself? Nancy Guthrie has been missing for 20 days. She has a pacemaker. She needs her medication. And somewhere, someone knows what happened on the night of January 31st. Whether that someone is a stranger in the shadows or the people who kissed her goodnight 4 hours before she vanished is the question that will define this case. The DNA results are coming, and when they do, we will be here to break down exactly what they mean.
All right, so that's video 1. Do you want me to watch the new video he uploaded today? Or do you want me to go to Brian Etten or Megyn Kelly and Maureen? Because the video this guy posted today, it's basically super viral, more viral than this video even. Oh, hello there, Corey. Welcome. So Jolly, you say new video, you mean the video he uploaded today, this channel? Okay.
Claiming they know who the kidnapper. In my last video, I laid out a series of coincidences surrounding Tommaso Cioni, the 4-hour window, the ownership behavior on the porch, the night trial gloves, The power of attorney signed 8 months before his mother-in-law vanished. The FBI returning to his home 5 separate times. That video reached a lot of people, and it raised a question I deliberately did not answer.
So we'll watch Brian and then Megyn Kelly next.
Tommaso Cioni planned this, he did not execute it alone. The man in the FBI doorbell footage is described as 5'9" to 5'10" with an average build. Tommaso Cioni is taller than that. He does not match. That is the single biggest hole in the theory I presented, and I left it open on purpose, because I was still pulling records. I have now been through the Pima County court system, property filings, band archives, social media accounts dating back to 2007, and what I found is a name that keeps appearing next to Tommaso Cioni's, a name attached to felony convictions for burglary, robbery, theft, and embezzlement. A man who lives in the Tucson area, minutes from Nancy Guthrie's home.
And so if that's true, Dominic Evans with a record, that's interesting.
A man who fits the physical description the FBI released. This video is about that man. His name is Dominic Aaron Lee Evans, and his connection to this case goes deeper than anyone has reported. It starts with a Craigslist ad. In April of 2007, 3 men in Tucson, Arizona found each other through the most mundane channels imaginable. Dominic Evans, a drummer, met guitarist Walter I. Goncalves Jr. through a Craigslist posting. Tommaso Cioni, who had moved to the United States from Tuscany, Italy, just the year before, responded to an ad in the Tucson Weekly. They formed a band. They called it Early Black, indie post-punk, shoegaze and grunge influences, the kind of music that...
Special announcement here. It looks like Johnny, where is it here? Gifted 20 memberships. Very awesome of you, Johnny. Thank you very much. So 20 people now will have memberships to the channel. So thank you so much for that. And make sure you thank Johnny for it too.
fills small venues in college towns and never quite breaks through to the mainstream. Dominic handled drums, Tommaso played bass and sang. Goncalves played guitar and also contributed vocals. They recorded their debut album at Loveland Studios in Tucson and released it in 2010 to positive local reviews in the Tucson Weekly. They played shows in Tucson, Phoenix, and Flagstaff. They had a local following. They never made it big. The name of that debut album is Life, Love, Love, Murder. I need to pause here because I do not want to sensationalize that title. Plenty of bands name albums with dark or provocative language. It does not mean anything by itself. But in the context of what happened to Nancy Guthrie, in the context of the man who played on that record, now being scrutinized by online investigators for his potential connection to a kidnapping, the title sits differently than it did in 2010. You do not need me to tell you why. You can hear it for yourself. What matters more than the album title is what the band represents. A nearly 2-decade friendship between Tommaso Cioni and Dominic Evans. They did not grow up together. They did not go to school together. They were not childhood friends reconnecting. They were strangers who found each other through classified ads in 2007 and built a relationship through music, rehearsals, recording sessions, and live shows across Arizona. By the time Nancy Guthrie disappeared in January of 2026, Tommaso and Dominic had known each other for 19 years. 19 years is not a casual acquaintance. That is a deep, sustained relationship. The kind of relationship where you know someone's habits, their financial situation, their capabilities, their weaknesses. You know what they are willing to do and what they are not willing to do. You know what they need. And in a case where investigators are actively considering the possibility that the man on the porch did not act alone, 19 years of trust between two men is not background noise.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a fair thing to speculate on, especially considering the news Ashley Banfield broke in the beginning. Tommaso's a suspect. Okay, this is something to think about. It just is.
It is infrastructure. Tommaso married Annie Guthrie in September of 2006, 1 year before Early Black was formed. That means, for the entire duration of his relationship with Dominic Evans, Tommaso has been a member of the Guthrie family. Every conversation between Tommaso and Dominic over those 19 years happened in the context of Tommaso's marriage to Nancy Guthrie's daughter. Dominic would have known about the family. He would have known about Savannah. He would have known about the house in the Catalina foothills. Not because he was conducting surveillance, but because that is what happens when you are close friends with someone for nearly 2 decades. Their life becomes familiar to you. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think by the end of this video, because everything I am about to show you has not been covered anywhere else in this level of detail. Let us continue. Dominic Aaron Lee Evans.
And by the way, while you're here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl, so we can go deep into the night here on our live streams. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Come say hello to the flock of black sheep in the live chat. Awesome people here. Great vibes and a good community. I go live every night about 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about true crime and current events.
Has a criminal record in Pima County, Arizona. The charges include felony burglary, robbery, theft, embezzlement, and DUI. This information was publicized by an investigative account on X, formerly Twitter, called @JLR Investigates, who posted a screenshot of court records from the Arizona Pima County court system. Multiple media outlets subsequently reported on this criminal history. I need to walk through what those charges mean individually, because the specific crimes matter enormously in the context of this case. Burglary. In Arizona, burglary is defined as entering or remaining unlawfully in a structure with the intent to commit a felony or theft. It is not about stealing property from a store. It is about entering a place you are not supposed to be. A home, a building, a residence. The legal definition of burglary maps almost perfectly onto what happened at Nancy Guthrie's house on the night of February 1st. Someone entered her home unlawfully with the intent to commit a crime. Robbery. Robbery differs from theft because it involves force or the threat of force against another person. It is not a passive crime. It requires confrontation. It requires a willingness to face another human being.
And on a side note, burglary for the intent of stealing items is not what I think this was at all. Now, maybe by their definition of robbery, using force to get something, maybe in this case, Nancy Guthrie, maybe it applies to that definition, but I also could see her not being alive leaving the house as well. And why would they not just leave her? Well, no body makes it harder for them because no body equals no homicide. So of course, that's why you're going to bring her, to hide the body, to make life more difficult for law enforcement, right?
And take something from them by intimidation or violence. Whoever entered Nancy Guthrie's home that night did not simply take an object. They took a person, an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker and limited mobility. That requires a specific psychological threshold, the willingness to physically confront and overpower another human being. Most people do not have that threshold. Someone with a robbery conviction has already crossed it. Theft and embezzlement. These are financial crimes. They suggest a pattern of taking what does not belong to you and a comfort with deception over extended.
So it is interesting to note, if these are things he's been convicted of, okay, he's done this kind of thing before.
Periods. Embezzlement in particular requires a position of trust. You cannot embezzle from someone who does not trust you with their resources. Now think about the profile of the man on Nancy Guthrie's porch. Someone who entered a home in the middle of the night. Someone who confronted an elderly woman and physically removed her from her residence. Someone who did all of this while wearing discount gear and a mask, suggesting a level of criminal familiarity, but not professional sophistication. That profile does not fit a 15-year AP biology teacher who studies lizards and makes homemade pasta. But it fits a man with felony convictions for burglary and robbery with disturbing precision. In my last video, I introduced the theory that this crime was committed by 2 people, an architect and an operative. The architect is the person who planned the crime. They know the house. They know the camera system. They know the victim's routine. They know the family's finances. The operative is the person who physically executed the plan.
I definitely think that could be the case. And I'm not saying it's definitely Tommaso and Dominic here, but I definitely think it's multiple people that were in on this. I do think that.
They are the one on the porch, the one in the mask, the one who enters the house and does the work. The architect provides the intelligence. The operative provides the nerve. If Tommaso Cioni is the architect, then the question becomes, Who in his inner circle has the criminal experience, the physical capability, and the willingness to be the operative? Dominic Evans is the first name that answers every part of that question. And then there is the DUI. Driving under the influence might seem like the least relevant charge on the list, but it tells us something about risk tolerance. A person who drives intoxicated has demonstrated a willingness to put others in danger for their own convenience. They have demonstrated that the fear of consequences does not override their impulses. In behavioral analysis, DUI offenders are statistically more likely to engage in other risk-taking behaviors. It is not the crime itself that matters here. It is what the crime reveals about the person's relationship with consequence.
And again, yeah, if you drink and drive, you probably have, at the moment you're doing it, you're not thinking about other people more than likely. And sure, the alcohol is influencing how you think and influencing your emotions, but still, it's still a selfish thing to do.
Now, I want to make a broader point about what a criminal record means in the context of the accomplice theory. In my last video, I asked who Tommaso Cioni would turn to if he needed someone to physically execute a plan he had designed. The answer is not a random stranger. It is not a professional from a movie. It is someone he...
Oh, we got a super chat here from Brian. Thank you very much, Brian. The name of this channel, and it's Jared, Jared, but the name of this channel is Crime Unresolved. This is a brand new channel. It very well could be AI. I'm not exactly sure. But the last two videos it's done, super viral. So thank you very much, Brian, for your support.
Already trusts. Someone who understands the stakes. Someone who has already demonstrated a willingness to cross legal and moral lines. Someone who has experience entering places they are not supposed to be. Every crime teaches the person who commits it something they carry forward. Burglary teaches you how to move through a space that does not belong to you without alerting the people inside. It teaches you how locks work, how doors work, how to manage noise, how to control your breathing and your footsteps in the dark. Robbery teaches you how to confront another person and maintain control of a chaotic situation through intimidation or force. These are not theoretical skills. They are practiced skills. And once you have them, you do not forget them. They sit in your muscle memory the same way a drummer remembers a beat pattern he learned 20 years ago. The FBI has told us what the suspect on Nancy's porch did. He approached in the dark. He knew the camera layout. He disabled it. He entered the home. He confronted an 84-year-old woman. He physically removed locks work.
So look, this is the point I was making here. So some people are saying this part of the lip looks like that part of the lip. But again, this left video or this image here, I don't know if he's doctored it in any way. But do you see what we're talking about? So look at that lip.
Every crime teaches the person who commits.
Do you see? Is it? Or did he doctor it? I don't know.
It's something they carry forward. Burglary teaches you how to move through a space that does not belong to you without alerting the people inside. It teaches you how locks work, how doors work, how to manage noise, how to control your breathing and your footsteps in the dark. Robbery.
Look, there's this. But again, I don't know if this is a real image on the left here completely. I'm not sure.
It teaches you how to confront another person and maintain control of a chaotic situation through intimidation or force. These are not theoretical skills. They are practiced skills. And once you have them, you do not forget them. They sit in your muscle memory the same way a drummer remembers a beat pattern he learned 20 years ago. The FBI has told us what the suspect on Nancy's porch did. He approached in the dark. He knew the camera layout. He disabled it. He entered the home. He confronted an 84-year-old woman. He physically removed her from the residence. He left without triggering a neighbor response. He disposed of evidence along an escape route, and then he vanished. That is not the resume of a first-time offender. That is the resume of someone who has done some version of this before. Maybe not a kidnapping, but entering, confronting, taking. Those are the verbs. And those verbs have appeared before on a Pima County court docket attached to the name Dominic Aaron Lee Evans. I want to be clear about what is confirmed and what is not. No law enforcement agency has named Dominic Evans as a suspect.
Important to note, this is true. No one has. And like I said, I'm not saying it's definitely him at all. You didn't hear me say that.
The FBI has not publicly connected him to the investigation. The sheriff has not mentioned his name. Everything I am presenting is based on publicly available records.
Dominic Evans is one of Tommaso's bandmates, and they've been friends for a while. And Dominic also has a criminal record.
Open source reporting and observable facts. I am not accusing Dominic Evans of any involvement in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. I am showing you why the public is asking questions about him. The FBI has described the suspect seen on Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10", with an average build, facial hair visible through the mask in the form of a mustache or goatee, and carrying a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker pack backpack. He was also wearing what appeared to be a belly band holster for a handgun, worn incorrectly over a thick jacket. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent and criminal profiler Jim Clemente told Fox News Digital that he observed what appears to be a marking, possibly a tattoo, visible on the suspect's right wrist in the surveillance footage. Clemente stated that if it is a tattoo, it could help investigators rule in and rule out potential suspects, and that it could help the public as well. After the FBI released these images and this description, online investigators immediately began comparing the visible features to people in Tommaso Cioni's inner circle. Dominic Evans was the primary focus. Several ex-users noted that Evans has an athletic build and visible facial hair consistent with a dark mustache and goatee. Lips and eyes of the suspect and Dominic are uncanny. Others visited early Black's old music videos and performance footage and identified what appears to be a tattoo on Evans's wrist. Now I need to talk about the limits of this kind of comparison. Comparing still images from a low-resolution doorbell camera to photographs of a person taken in completely different conditions is inherently unreliable. Lighting, angle, compression artifacts, the distortion caused by the mask, all of these factors make definitive visual identification impossible from public footage alone. I am not going to stand here and tell you that the man on the porch is Dominic Evans, based on a side-by-side photograph. That would be irresponsible. But what I can tell you is this: the physical parameters released by the FBI do not exclude Dominic Evans. The height range of 5'9" to 5'10" is consistent with his build. The average build...
And this part is true too. And like I said, I don't endorse all of the findings of this video or even the speculations, but it does make some interesting points. I do think that, and that's why it's an interesting video to go over, in my opinion.
Build description is consistent, the facial hair is consistent, and the potential wrist tattoo, if confirmed, would narrow the field significantly. Jim Clemente is not a YouTuber speculating in his bedroom. He is a former FBI profiler who spent his career analyzing exactly this kind of evidence. When he says a tattoo could help identify the suspect, he is telling us that the FBI is already looking at this detail. They are already cross-referencing it against known individuals. And here is the detail from the FBI description.
Oh. Thank you very much for this. Improve yourself. You have the best channel for Guthrie crime info. Tonight is an eye-opener. Thanks. Now, thank you. Improve yourself. You are the best with your super chats here. I'm very appreciative and grateful for all of the support I've been getting, from the likes, comments, subscriptions, super chats, super stickers, the memberships that Johnny gifted. Thank you very much to everybody.
That has been buried under all the speculation about faces and tattoos. The height, 5'9" to 5'10". In my last video, I presented the fact that Tommaso Cioni appears notably taller than this range, based on publicly available photographs. Multiple investigative journalists who analyzed photos of Tommaso standing next to other people concluded that he exceeds the FBI's height estimate. That was the biggest objection to the theory I presented. If Tommaso is too tall to be the man on the porch, then the Tommaso theory collapses. But
I agree. I think he is too tall to be the person on the porch. What do you think? Do you think Tommaso is too tall to be the person on the porch? Press 1 if you think yes, he's too tall. Press 2 if you think no, maybe it is him. So 1, too tall. 2, maybe it is Tommaso.
But it does not collapse if there are two people. It does not collapse if the man on the porch is not the man who planned the crime. And it does not collapse if the man on the porch is 5'9" to 5'10", has an athletic build, has a dark goatee, potentially has a wrist tattoo, and has a criminal record that includes...
Oh, got some more support here. Who's this? Emily. Thank you so much for this, Emily. I have a lot of gratitude in my heart today. So many people are being so generous to me. I don't know what to say. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And hopefully I give you guys the kind of content you all want and is entertaining, interesting, and educational for you all.
Felony burglary. The height discrepancy does not disprove the Tommaso theory. It proves the accomplice theory. It proves that the architect and the operative are two different people. And it points directly at the man who has been standing next to Tommaso Cioni in band photographs for 19 years. Public records associate Dominic Evans with addresses in the broader Tucson and Marana area, with past addresses in Eloy and other parts of Arizona. He was born on February 18, 1978, making him 47 years old. He has lived in the southern Arizona region for most of his adult life. Marana is a community located northwest of Tucson, within easy driving distance of the Catalina Foothills neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie lived. The February 13th SWAT raid that drew national attention was executed at a residence near East Orange Grove Road and North First Avenue, approximately 1.9 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. Social media immediately connected this location.
Wow. And Johnny gifted 20 more memberships here. So he's gifted 40 memberships to people in the channel here. So he's being a great shepherd of black sheep here himself, or herself, whichever one it is. I think it's himself. But everyone should definitely thank Johnny because there's going to be a bunch of new members because of their support. So thank you so much for that too.
To Evans, due to his Marana area address and proximity. However, I need to correct a piece of misinformation that has been circulating widely online. The mother and son detained during the February 13th SWAT operation were not Dominic Evans and his mother. According to ABC News, the individuals detained were Luke Daly, age 37, and his 77-year-old mother.
And that's the person I was referring to before, the LD person. That's that person.
Daly's lawyer, Chris Scalepi, confirmed that his client has served time in state prison on drug-related charges, but reiterated that neither Daly nor his mother were arrested and that they have no link to Nancy Guthrie. A third individual, a DoorDash driver named Carlos Palazuelos, was also detained earlier and released after law enforcement determined he had no connection to the case. So, the SWAT raid was not targeting Dominic Evans. That needs to be stated plainly. But what remains true is the geography. Evans lives in the Tucson-Marana area. Nancy Guthrie lived in the Catalina Foothills. Tommaso and Annie live approximately 4 miles from Nancy. These three locations form a tight triangle in the northern Tucson suburbs. If you were planning a crime that required knowledge of the victim's neighborhood, access to the area at unusual hours, and a quick exit route, living within this triangle is not just convenient, it is necessary. There is another geographic detail that deserves attention. Some reports have linked Evans to a property in Rio Rico, Arizona. Rio Rico is a rural community approximately 60 miles south of Tucson, about 16 miles north of the Mexican border, near Nogales. It is remote, it is sparsely populated, and it is the kind of place where someone or something could disappear without attracting attention. The Embassy of Mexico told Fox News that there is no indication Nancy Guthrie is in Mexico. Secretary of Security Omar Garcia Harfuch stated this at a press conference. But the proximity of Rio Rico to the border, combined with Evans's potential connection to that area, has fueled speculation about possible routes out of Tucson for someone trying to move an abducted person. I am not suggesting that Nancy Guthrie was taken to Rio Rico.
So this video seems to suggest that LD, Luke, not really involved. That's what this video suggests.
Or moved across the border. There is no evidence of that, but in an investigation where the FBI has received over 50,000 tips and has still not located an 84-year-old woman after 3 weeks, every geographic connection to every person in the suspect's inner circle matters. And Dominic Evans has geographic connections that stretch from the immediate vicinity of the
And thanks to Johnny's support there, almost every person that I see in the live chat is green, which is awesome to see. So thank you again for that, Johnny. It's really appreciated.
crime scene to one of the most remote areas of southern Arizona. Think about the logistics of disappearing a person. You cannot keep someone in a residential neighborhood where every neighbor has a ring camera and the FBI is canvassing door to door. You need somewhere isolated, somewhere rural, somewhere with minimal surveillance and minimal traffic, somewhere where a vehicle arriving in the middle of the night does not trigger a motion sensor or a curious neighbor.
Interesting. Kelly, thank you so much for your support here, Kelly. You have a great channel. So glad I found your channel a couple weeks ago. Your channel is perfect for me since I'm a night owl. Aha! We love fellow night owls and black sheep here, so you're very welcome. I'm glad you found us all. And I consider my spirit animal Shadow the night owl. But I'm glad you found me, Kelly. Thank you very much for the super chat. Make sure you like the video out there if you're here. Likes are free for my spirit animal, the night owl. Shadow the night owl.
Rio Rico, 60 miles south of Tucson, is exactly that kind of place. Large properties, scattered homes, dirt roads that do not appear on Google Street View, a landscape where the desert swallows sound and distance.
And we also got, I can't believe it, but Johnny gifted 20 more memberships. So he's gifted 60 memberships here. So we got to show a lot of gratitude to Johnny here for this because, yeah, 60 people will have memberships that didn't before. So thank you so much to Johnny. Definitely appreciated.
Makes witnesses irrelevant. The route from Tucson to Rio Rico follows Interstate 19 south. It is a straight shot through the desert. At 2 in the morning, with no traffic, it takes roughly 50 minutes. If someone left Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood at approximately 2:30 a.m. on February 1st, they could be in Rio Rico by 3:20 a.m. If they then returned to the Tucson area, they could be back home by 4:10 a.m. The entire round trip, including time at the destination, fits comfortably inside the window before sunrise. And along that route, every cell tower ping would tell investigators exactly where the vehicle traveled. Which is why, if the person driving that route was not careful, the tower dump data is going to tell this entire story, without a single witness ever having to testify. Now I want to go back to something from the FBI footage.
And that is interesting. I don't know if you caught that, but the tower dump data from the cell phones, that will be pretty interesting when we find out what that says.
That most people have not thought about carefully enough. The door. Nancy Guthrie's home had a front gate in addition to the front door. This is common in Tucson. Desert homes frequently have wrought iron security gates or screen doors in front of the main entry point. They serve as a secondary barrier. In the FBI doorbell footage, the suspect approaches the front door. He reaches out and taps the camera. He then appears to enter the home. But here is the question that no one is asking loudly enough. How did he get through the gate? There is no visible evidence in the released footage of him forcing entry. No prying, no tool use, no kicking. He appears to walk through as though it was already open or had been left unlocked for him. There are two explanations for this. The first is that Nancy did not lock her gate that night. She was 84 years old, living alone.
So, and this is another thing. Where is this gate they're talking about? I mean, he's mentioned this gate, but where is it? I mean, I haven't seen it. So where is the gate? Is there a gate? Is there a gate in front of that archway there that I just haven't seen? I mean, all I can think of is the video where Brian Etton's assistant walks up to the front door. I didn't see a gate there. Did anyone else see a gate? Let me know in the comments because I didn't.
In a quiet neighborhood where she had lived since 1985, it is entirely possible that she simply did not secure the outer barrier. The second explanation is that someone left it accessible for the intruder, someone who had been at the house earlier that evening, someone who knew the gate existed and knew that it needed to be open for the plan to work. If you accept the architect and operative framework, this detail becomes significant. Tommaso Cioni dropped Nancy off at approximately 9:30 to 9:50 p.m. He says he confirmed she was safely inside, but did he also confirm the gate was locked behind him? Did he check the outer door?
So does this angle show it? Is this Nancy Guthrie's house right here? And if so, where's the gate? I'm still confused on that point. I mean, this looks like the back door, maybe.
Or did he leave it in a position that would allow someone else to approach that front door 4 hours later without having to force their way through? The person on that porch did not behave like someone overcoming barriers. He behaved like someone walking through a path that had
Not like someone overcoming barriers. Thank you very much for the super chat, Peekaboo. In the full picture of family at Christmas in black, Savannah and Tommaso are about the same height. Savannah is 5'10". He is leaning a little. So you think Tommaso is about 6 foot-ish then, if he's leaning a little and being the same height as Savannah, who's 5'10"? Is Savannah 5'10" without heels even? Because if so, that's kind of tall. But thank you very much for that, Peekaboo. I appreciate your support.
been cleared for him. And if that path was cleared by someone who was at the house hours earlier, then the operative did not need to be a master locksmith. He just needed to be told which door was open. The Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI have confirmed that 2 separate DNA profiles have been recovered in connection with this case. The first was extracted from a glove found approximately 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home in a field near the side of the road. The FBI stated that this glove appears to visually match the gloves worn by the suspect in the doorbell camera footage. The DNA from this glove belongs to an unknown male and does not match Nancy, does not match any family member, and does not match anyone in CODIS, the FBI's national criminal database. The second DNA profile comes from biological evidence recovered inside Nancy Guthrie's home. The Sheriff's Department stated that this evidence is being analyzed at a private lab in Florida, and that DNA profiles are under lab analysis. The Sheriff's Department has confirmed that the DNA profile from the glove does not match the DNA profile from inside the home. They are from 2 different people. 2 DNA profiles.
And I think Johnny gave 20 more memberships. Now he's given up to 80. So a round of applause for Johnny. He can tell us what video to watch next. How about that? At the very least. Thank you again, Johnny.
Files. 2 different people, 2 different locations, one on a glove discarded along a potential escape route, one inside the home where an 84-year-old woman was taken from her bed. This is not speculation about whether an accomplice was involved. This is biological evidence that 2 separate individuals contributed genetic material to this crime scene. Former FBI hostage negotiator Chip Massey stated that an accomplice would significantly change the case, adding that the kidnapper would need help to control a hostage, maintain her health, and manage the logistics of keeping someone hidden. Investigators are now pursuing investigative genetic genealogy. This is the same technique used in the Golden State Killer case and the Brian Kohberger case. Even if the suspect has never submitted DNA to a commercial genealogy service, a family member might have. By building family trees from partial matches in publicly available databases, investigators can narrow the search to a specific individual through their relatives. This process takes time, but it has solved cases that were considered unsolvable for decades. Here is what makes the 2 DNA profile finding so devastating for whoever did this. If only one DNA profile had been found, the defense is simple. A lone stranger acted alone. One person, one...
Dominic Evans is the person on the left in the band with Tommaso. Dominic Evans.
Profile, one crime. But 2 profiles means 2 people to identify, 2 family trees to build, 2 sets of relatives who might have used 23andMe or Ancestry. The chances that neither person has a single family member in any genealogy database drops exponentially with every branch of every family tree. 1 profile is hard to run from. 2 profiles is a mathematical guarantee that at least one of them will eventually lead to a name. And if one of those names turns out to be connected to the man who dropped Nancy Guthrie off 4 hours before she disappeared, or to the man who played drums next to him for 19 years, then every coincidence I laid out in my last video, and every detail I am laying out in this one, stops being a coincidence. It becomes a conspiracy, and the DNA will have proven it. I want to return to the FBI footage one more time, because there is a behavioral detail that takes on new meaning when you view it through the lens of the accomplice theory. The FBI released both video clips and still images from Nancy's doorbell camera. Some analysts, including private investigator Steve Fisher, have raised the possibility that the footage may show two different people at different times during the night. One image shows a person carrying the backpack and holster. Another image appears to show a person in similar clothing, but without the backpack or holster. The build and posture appear subtly different. Fox News reported that this prompted speculation from both experts and online investigators that a second suspect may be visible in the footage. If this is correct, if the footage captures two different people on Nancy's porch at different points during...
Let's see here. And just like, can't believe it, but Johnny just did 20 more. Almost everyone in the chat's going to have a membership here by the end of the night. So Johnny, let me know if you want us to watch Brian Netton or Megyn Kelly next. That's the least I can do to show my gratitude for all you're doing for all the black sheep here. And the night owls too, the night owls and the black sheep. So thank you so much for this.
The night, then the 2 DNA profile finding has visual confirmation. It means the crime was not committed by one person making multiple trips. It was committed by at least 2 people working in coordination. One may have been responsible for disabling the camera and securing the perimeter. The other may have been responsible for entering the home and removing Nancy. Think about the logistics of taking an 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker and limited mobility from her home in the middle of the night. She cannot be rushed. She cannot be thrown over someone's shoulder and carried to a car. She needs to be walked or assisted out of the home, down the driveway, and into a vehicle that is parked at a safe distance to avoid being captured on neighborhood cameras. That process takes time. And during that time, someone needs to be watching. Someone needs to be making sure no neighbor turns on a light, no car drives past, no dog starts barking in the wrong direction. The operative inside the house cannot simultaneously be the lookout outside the house. That requires a second person. Sheriff Nanos told...
And this is all very likely, if you ask me, that there was a second person doing lookout, maybe someone in the back of the house. I don't know, but very likely there was more than one person.
BBC News that he believes Nancy Guthrie was specifically targeted in the apparent abduction. She was not a random victim. Someone chose her. And if you were going to target an elderly woman in her own home, in a quiet neighborhood with minimal street lighting and scattered security cameras, you do not improvise. You plan. You scout. You assign roles. The dress rehearsal on January 23rd, the camera disabling on February 1st, the physical removal of a vulnerable person, the disposal of evidence along a 2-mile route, the complete disappearance of the victim with no trace for 3 weeks. None of this is the work of a single person acting on impulse. And here is where the profile of Dominic Evans becomes relevant again, not because of his face or his build, but because of his skill set. A man with convictions for burglary knows how to enter a structure. A man with convictions for robbery knows how to confront and control another person. A man who has lived in the Tucson area for decades knows the roads, the neighborhoods, the escape routes. A man who has been friends with Tommaso Cioni for 19 years knows the family. And a man whose DNA is presumably on file somewhere in the Arizona criminal justice system would have a very powerful incentive to wear nitrile gloves and a mask if he were going to commit another crime. On February 9th, NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Entin reported that Tommaso Cioni had not been seen publicly in almost a week. Entin stated on the Megyn Kelly show that Cioni was very recognizable with his big beard, and that he had not been spotted at or near the family home since approximately the first week of February.
So this right here is the last picture of Annie and Tommaso before Tommaso is laying low. And outside of that one video, or the 2 videos with Annie and Savannah Guthrie with Cameron, I don't think we've seen Annie either recently, for that matter.
A man goes silent in the middle of the most public investigation in the country. His mother-in-law is missing. The FBI is camped in his neighborhood. News cameras are pointed at his front door around the clock, and he stops being visible. Now, there are perfectly innocent
Now, in Tommaso's defense and Annie's defense here, if everyone's speculating you're doing it, you're not going to want people taking pictures of you, right? So I can see why they don't want it. But again,
explanations for this. His lawyer may have advised him to stay out of the public eye. The media attention may have become unbearable. He may be staying with friends or family elsewhere. These are all reasonable. But consider the silence in the context of what we know about Dominic Evans. If two people are connected to this crime, and one of them is under intense public scrutiny, while the other is barely being discussed by the mainstream media.
So it looks like someone's correct. Savannah is pretty tall. Like, that is tall.
The smartest thing the visible person can do is disappear. Not flee, not run. Just stop being available. Stop providing data points. Stop giving reporters footage to analyze and body language experts material to dissect. Every public appearance is a risk. Every photograph is a comparison. Every word is something a lawyer will eventually have to explain. Meanwhile, as of the latest reporting, Dominic Evans has not made any public statement about the case. He has not been interviewed by any media outlet. He has not posted on social media. He has not issued a denial or expressed concern for Nancy Guthrie's well-being. In the age of constant digital presence, where everyone with a phone can make a statement to the world in 30 seconds, his silence is complete. Silence from one person can mean many things. Silence from two people who have known each other for 19 years, who are both connected to the victim's family, and who are both being discussed by the public in the context of a kidnapping investigation. That silence sounds coordinated. It sounds like two people who...
So why would someone hide their face if they're innocent? Well, maybe the same reason that celebrities want to hide themselves so they don't get hounded in public, right? Does it mean they're guilty of something? Not always. Not always. I don't always subscribe to the, if you have nothing to hide, why not just have everything out in the open? I'd say, well, if that's why do you have your bathroom in the bathroom and not in the kitchen or the family room? Do you have something to hide because you don't want to go to the bathroom in front of everyone? No, probably not, right? But sometimes privacy is important.
who have been told the same thing by the same person. Do not talk. Do not post. Do not react. Let the storm pass, and hope the DNA comes back clean. As of today, Nancy Guthrie has been missing for 23 days. The investigation has entered what officials describe as a phase of traditional detective work. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has received more than 55,000 calls since February 1st. Over 21,000 tips have come through the FBI's dedicated tip line. 400 investigators have been assigned to the case. The reward for information leading to an arrest or Nancy's whereabouts has reached $200,000 after an anonymous donation. Investigators are working with Walmart to identify who purchased the Ozark Trail backpack worn by the suspect. Sheriff Nanos described this as a significant investigative avenue, saying they can now positively identify the backpack as being sold exclusively at Walmart, and are working with store managers across the state to identify how many units were sold in the last 30 to 60 days, and whether they can track those purchases. They are also tracking the unique holster visible in the footage, taking images to gun stores across the Tucson area. The sheriff described the holster as having pretty unique characteristics. The FBI is also reviewing gun purchases made in the Tucson area within the last year, with agents showing images and names to local gun store owners. They are pursuing genealogical testing on the DNA evidence. They are working with technology companies to attempt to recover additional footage from Nancy's home security system. And they are using a device called a signal sniffer, a Bluetooth tracking tool deployed via helicopter, to search for the signal from Nancy's pacemaker. Savannah Guthrie has posted multiple videos to Instagram, pleading for her mother's return and telling the kidnapper that it is never too late to do the right thing. But behind the public statements, there are signs that the investigation is reaching a critical juncture. ABC News reported that sources with knowledge of the case said investigators are finding their best leads coming up empty. The partial DNA is unidentified. No additional video has been recovered. No vehicle has been associated with the abduction. Sources told ABC News that investigators believe the case will soon have to move into a new phase, with
a new phase as some of the federal agents move out. And by the way, in terms of the signal sniffer, I don't think that's going to find anything. That was a long shot. But while you're here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl, by the way, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And make sure you thank Johnny for all the memberships that he's gifted, because he gifted a lot of them.
Fewer dedicated resources, but a small task force focused on it long term. This is the window. The next 2 to 3 weeks will determine whether this case is solved quickly or becomes a years-long investigation. The genealogical DNA results are the key. Retired FBI agent Jason Pack described the process clearly. The private lab finishes the profiles. The profiles go to the sheriff. The FBI uploads them into CODIS. Within a short window, they will know if there is a match. And if there is no match in CODIS, the genealogy databases take over. Family trees, partial matches, branches that narrow to a name. In my last video, I explained how the January 23rd backward walker footage created a second date for investigators to examine, a second night where the suspect was active and potentially sloppy. That theory applies with even greater force to the accomplice framework. If 2 people were involved in this crime, then the cell tower data becomes twice as powerful. The FBI is not looking for one phone that appeared at the rehearsal site on January 23rd and at the crime scene on February 1st. They are looking for 2 phones, 2 devices that might have been in proximity to each other on both nights, 2 devices that might have traveled similar routes at similar times, 2 devices that might have connected to the same cell towers in sequence. The suspect on January 23rd may have been conducting a solo rehearsal. But if the accomplice theory is correct, it is equally possible that both individuals were present for the dry run. One testing the approach, the other watching from a vehicle parked nearby, monitoring the neighborhood response time, counting the seconds between the camera trigger and the dog barking. A proper dress rehearsal does not just test the performer, it tests the entire production. And here's the problem for whoever did this. You can manufacture an alibi for the night of February 1st. You know the crime is coming. You plan for it. You leave your phone at home. You borrow a car. You create a digital ghost. But January 23rd was supposed to be invisible. Nobody was supposed to know about it. The Ring camera was supposed to miss the backward walker. The dog was not supposed to bark.
This is the one thing I disagree with. I think he made up this January 23rd date. The date that he's talking about is the date that double backpack guy, and that was the same night of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. So that's the one thing I don't know where he got that from. Just so you know.
The homeowner was not supposed to post the footage. Because the suspects believed January 23rd was safe, they almost certainly did not take precautions. Their phones were in their pockets. They drove their own cars. They connected to cell towers along the route. And all of that data is sitting in the records of every telecommunications company that operates towers in the northern Tucson area. If the FBI runs a tower dump for January 23rd and overlays it with cell data from February 1st, and 2 phones appear in both datasets, phones that are registered to 2 individuals who know each other, who live in the same area, who have a 19-year relationship, the case does not just narrow, it closes. Throughout this investigation, multiple ransom-style communications have been sent to media outlets. TMZ received an initial ransom note on February 1st and 2nd, demanding millions of dollars in Bitcoin. That note contained a Bitcoin wallet address. A second note followed, then a third, and then a fourth. The fourth email, received on February 16th, stated in part that the sender knows what they saw 5 days ago south of the border, and that they were told to shut up, claiming they know who the kidnapper is, and that it was definitely Nancy. Investigative journalist and former FBI profiler Jim Clemente and ransom expert David Levin both analyzed the communications. Levin noted that the sender said they would not touch an initial $50,000 payment until an arrest is made, at which point they would expect the FBI to deposit the remaining $50,000. The person wrote that they are gambling, both for his safety and his possible freedom. Levin interpreted this language as suggesting the sender may be close to the flame and worried about being implicated themselves. Close to the flame. That phrase has stayed with me. The ransom language does not read like a stranger demanding payment. It reads like someone who is involved at a peripheral level, someone who knows what happened, but was not the one who did it. Someone who is terrified of being connected to the crime, but sees an opportunity to profit from the information they have. In the TMZ tipster's earliest communication, they use the phrase, the main individual, not the kidnapper, not the suspect, the main individual. That is organizational language. It implies a hierarchy. It implies that the sender understands there is more than one person involved.
Now, this guy, he's making it seem like the ransom notes are definitely legit, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I would wonder if any of them are legit for that matter. I don't know if they are.
And that one of them is primary and the others are secondary. If you are describing a lone stranger who broke into a house and took a woman, you say the kidnapper or the man or the person who did this. You do not say the main individual unless you understand that the operation has layers. Now consider who might write something like that. Someone close to the flame. Someone who knows the main individual. Someone who is gambling with their own safety because they are worried about being implicated. Does that sound like a random stranger who stumbled across information? Or does that sound like someone on the outer edge of the conspiracy? Someone who was involved enough to know what happened, but not central enough to feel safe? Someone who is watching the investigation close in and is trying to position themselves on the right side of it before the DNA comes back. If the accomplice theory is correct, there may be more than two people who know what happened to Nancy Guthrie. There may be people who helped with logistics, people who provided a location.
The January 23rd date is nothing, as far as I know. Now, Sheriff Nanos was asking about January 11th, and then some of the thoughts were, well, maybe one of the days from the Nest Cam could have been January 11th, because Brian Etten reported his source told him multiple days from the Nest Cam that you were seeing footage from multiple days. Sheriff Nanos then right away said, no, that's speculation, but they're still looking at things back from January 11th. What's the significance of that day? I don't know, but that's what they were saying.
People who were told about the plan after the fact. Every one of those people is now watching the same news coverage you are watching. They are seeing the DNA analysis. They are seeing the genealogy databases. They are seeing the $200,000 reward. And at least one of them has already started talking to the media, even if they are doing it through anonymous emails to TMZ. The ring of people who know the truth about February 1st is wider than one person. And the wider that ring gets, the more likely it is that someone inside it breaks. Before I get to the counter-arguments, I want to address the other coverage of Dominic Evans that has appeared on YouTube and social media, because much of it has been careless. Some channels have presented the SWAT raid on February 13th as though it targeted Dominic Evans. It did not. The individuals detained were Luke Daly and his mother. Evans has not been publicly detained, questioned, or
And this is important. Luke Daly was the driver of that Range Rover, right? And this was the night of the FBI raid. So there was mother and Luke and then another person, right? There was 3 people in total. So that's what he's talking about with this.
Connected to any law enforcement action. Presenting the raid as an Evans story is factually wrong, and it undermines the credibility of everyone covering this case. Some channels have called the gloves found near Nancy's home latex gloves. They are not latex, they are nitrile. The distinction matters because nitrile is what is used in scientific and laboratory settings, which connects to Tommaso's profession. Latex is a completely different material. Getting this wrong shows a lack of basic research. Some channels have presented side-by-side photographs of Evans and the masked suspect, and declared a match as though it were conclusive. It is not. Low-resolution doorbell camera footage, distorted by infrared lighting and partially obscured by a ski mask, cannot be reliably compared to casual photographs taken in completely different conditions. Facial comparison from this kind of evidence requires forensic analysis by trained professionals, not screenshot collages on social media. I am presenting the Dominic Evans connection because the publicly available facts warrant examination. His criminal record, his proximity, his relationship with Tommaso, the physical description match, the 2 DNA profiles, the accomplice theory. These are legitimate data points, but they are not proof. And anyone who tells you they are proof is selling you something other than the truth. If the family is cleared, the argument goes, then Tommaso is cleared. And if Tommaso is cleared, the theory that he directed someone else to commit this crime has no foundation. This is a legitimate...
And I'll say, Johnny, what I do believe is when people have a prosperity mentality and they give away what they have, it comes back around to them. I absolutely believe in that. So again, thank you.
Counter argument, and it deserves to be taken seriously. But as I explained in my last video, cleared is an investigative status, not a legal verdict. It means the current evidence does not support charging them. It does not mean new evidence cannot change that status. And in high-profile cases, clearing family members publicly can be a tactical decision designed to reduce pressure on the investigation and potentially make a guilty party lower their guard. There is also the possibility that Dominic Evans is completely uninvolved, that his criminal record is from years ago and has no connection to this crime, that his physical resemblance to the suspect is coincidental, that his friendship with Tommaso is just a friendship and nothing more, and that the real kidnapper is someone whose name has not surfaced yet, someone who is sitting in a database waiting to be matched by genealogy. This possibility is real, and it should not be dismissed. In my last video, I presented the case for Tommaso Cioni as the architect. In this video, I have presented the case for Dominic Evans as the potential operative. A man with felony convictions for burglary and robbery. A man who fits the FBI's physical description. A man who has been close friends with the victim's son-in-law for 19 years. A man who lives in the immediate area. A man whose band's debut album was called Life, Love, Love, Murder. But I want to close with something that no one else covering this case has said out loud. The reason the Dominic Evans angle matters is not because of his face. It is not because of a wrist tattoo or a side-by-side comparison on social media. It is because he solves the problem. The single biggest problem in the Tommaso Cioni theory. In my last video, the counter-argument that hit the hardest was the height. Tommaso is too tall to be the man on the porch. If that is true, the theory should collapse. But the theory does not collapse because of Dominic Evans, a man the right height, the right build, the right background, the right proximity, the right relationship to the person who dropped Nancy Guthrie off 4 hours before she disappeared. If you remove Dominic Evans from this case, the Tommaso theory has a fatal flaw. If you add him back in, every flaw disappears. That is not proof, but it is a framework. And frameworks are what investigators use to organize evidence until the evidence speaks for itself. The DNA will speak. The genealogy will speak. The cell tower data will speak. And when they do, the framework will either hold or it will shatter. There is one more thing I want you to think about. The reward is now $200,000. That number is not just for a stranger with information. It is for anyone who knows anything. If there is a circle of people who know what happened on the night of January 31st, $200,000 is a number that tests loyalty. It tests friendships. It tests the bond between two men who met through a classified ad in 2007 and played music together for nearly 2 decades. Money has a way of making people reconsider their silence, especially when the alternative is a DNA match that leads federal agents to their front door. I am not telling you he did it. I am telling you that when the DNA results come back, his name is one that the investigation cannot afford to ignore. And if those results connect to anyone in the early black circle, then the album title, the criminal record, the 19-year friendship, the height match, the geographic proximity, all of it stops being coincidence and starts being evidence. The DNA will decide. It always does. And when it does, we will be here. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me where you stand. Tell me what I missed. Tell me what you think happened on the night of January 31st. Because this community has been ahead of the official investigation from the beginning, and I am not going to stop pulling records until Nancy Guthrie is found. Subscribe, turn on notifications, share this video with anyone following this case. The next update will cover the DNA results the moment they are made public. And that update may change everything. Nancy Guthrie is still out there. She is still alive until someone proves otherwise. And someone, somewhere, knows where she is. I will see you in the next one.
All right. So that's been the person that everyone's been talking about recently. What do you think about those 2 videos?
Meal prep because they've done the work for you and it's real food.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. Really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe.
So before we get into Brian Etten, what did you all think of those 2 videos there? Like I said, I don't agree with everything they said, but I do think it provided for some interesting discussion there. Yeah, Johnny's got a good heart, for sure. But I mean, I believe, as he said, and Corey says, No Hype says, MSN says, I do believe when that stuff comes around, when you have it, I always like giving. Yeah, WSN, I agree. But I think it did provide for some interesting discussion. I'll give it that.
I appreciate all your support. It is day 27 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. I'm outside Nancy Guthrie's house. It's Friday. A couple of developments today that I'm going to get to in this episode. First of all, a really interesting interview coming up in a couple of minutes with a former member of law enforcement in Pima County who actually worked this neighborhood for decades, worked burglaries in this neighborhood. And I haven't really talked to anyone quite like this. And he has a theory about what happened to Nancy Guthrie that is very, very interesting. And again, this isn't just like someone with a theory that has never even been here. I mean, this is a guy who worked other burglaries right in this area. He knows the area well. He knows the terrain well. And it's very interesting what he thinks happened. So you're going to hear from him coming up in a second. But I want to give you a couple of updates from today. The Pima County Sheriff's Office, they put out a new state.
So before Brian gets into that, I think the good thing about those other two videos was it kind of put everything together, right? We've been watching updates of this every day between Brian Etten, Tony Bruschi, Megan Kelly, Jennifer Coffendoffer, Joe Pags. We've listened to this every day, but that person has been zoomed out for a while, and he kind of just put it all together. Ashley Banfield, can't forget her either. But he put it together, and, he connected some dots that some of the other people are going to be a little more hesitant to do. Understandably so. But he also covered his bases too and covered his ass. And he said, yeah, I'm not saying this is for sure. I'm not saying it's definitely Dominic or Tommaso, but this is just what it could be. Interesting.
I'm going to read it to you, and I'm trying to kind of read between the lines here of what they mean by some of this. But they say this remains an active investigation and will continue until Nancy Guthrie is located or all leads have been exhausted. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is refocusing resources. That's what I thought was interesting. They said refocusing resources to detectives specifically assigned to this case. As leads are developed and resolved, resource allocation may fluctuate. PCSD will maintain a patrol presence in the Guthrie neighborhood. So when they say refocusing resources, it's my understanding that pretty much every detective has been working this case in the past. And I think now they are just going to assign certain detectives to work the case so others can go back to working other cases in Pima County, which has been a complaint I've heard from some people that, other crimes aren't getting the attention that they need right now here because Pima County has everyone working the Nancy Guthrie case. So it sounds like they are going to move things around a little bit, especially since in many ways there just haven't been any good leads that we know of lately. FBI has moved a lot of their people back to Phoenix, which is about 2 hours away. That's obviously where their like headquarters is for this area. So that kind of makes sense, but they are emphasizing that they're also keeping agents on the ground here in Tucson still. On TikTok, I mentioned this last night. There was something kind of weird that happened that we learned more about outside Nancy Guthrie's house late last night. There was this car that kept driving by over and over and over again. And we saw it for like just over in a really creepy way, driving slow, stopping by us. Like it just, there's a lot of people that drive by, but this just felt different. And one of the other photographers out here said that he saw the driver inside, like holding up a photo of Nancy Guthrie. It was just really creepy and weird. So one of the members of the media went over and told the deputy who was outside of Nancy Guthrie's house. They ended up questioning the guy, getting him out of the car, and it turns out that they charged him with driving under the influence. They did a field sobriety test. It was all very strange that it was happening right in front of Nancy Guthrie's house, and it was weird that he had the photo of her in the car and that he drove by so many times.
So he had a photo of Nancy Guthrie in the car and got a DUI in front of Nancy Guthrie's house last night. What is that all about? Do you think that's related in some way? Press 1 if you think that DUI was related. Press 2 if you think it's just a loony person. So 1, you think it's related. 2, no relation.
They say that it has nothing to do with the investigation, the Nancy Guthrie investigation, but he was arrested for driving under the influence. And I just wanted to give you guys an update on that because some of you guys saw it happening outside the house last night. I want to get to my interview with Eric Maldonado, though. He's the one who worked for Pima County Sheriff for decades and worked this area specifically, knows all about the way burglars operate in this area. And again, just had a really, really interesting perspective on the case and what he thinks may have happened and all the latest developments. So here's my conversation with Eric. I'm joined now by Eric Maldonado. Eric, it's nice to meet you. I think I've met a lot of your former colleagues here in Pima County. So thank you for taking the time. First of all, you worked for the.
So it looks like a quarter of the people about think it could have been something, but then 75% think no, not related.
The sheriff's office here for almost 3 decades, right?
Yeah, I was there for 29 years from 1995 to 2024, and I retired as the K-9 unit supervisor.
Wow. Okay, cool. Were you on SWAT too?
Yeah, I was on SWAT for 10 years. I was in K-9 for 12 years, 6 as a deputy, and then 6 as the K-9 unit supervisor working a dual purpose dog. And I also supervised the search and rescue unit for a couple of years.
Okay, awesome. Well, you're the perfect guy for me to talk to today. First thing I want to ask you about this new surveillance video. It's from 2.5 miles away from Nancy's. You see a car go by, and the timing is what's interesting to me because Nancy's pacemaker disconnected at 2:28 a.m. The car goes by at 2:36, which is about the same amount of time it would take to drive from Nancy's by this camera.
Sure.
And it's also the same route that some of the locals told me they would take if they were trying to get away without being spotted because it doesn't go on any of the main roads. What do you make of it?
Well, I wouldn't put too much value in it. I think there is value in it. Like, let's be realistic. But based on the abduction itself, like that, I think that would just take some time on scene. So the time difference just seems to be a little bit too compressed. But I do think it's of value because maybe it's not Nancy in that car, but maybe it's someone associated with the crime itself in that vehicle.
So if you missed it, what they're talking about is that video we went over last night with that car driving by. It looked like a white or silver vehicle. Or what did we say it was? A Kia? Is that what we said it was? But they're talking about that. And they're thinking, okay, was Nancy in there? Or was it someone related to the crime in there? Let's see what they say.
So just because the vehicle goes by doesn't necessarily mean that Nancy was in it, but that vehicle could absolutely 100% be associated with the crime itself. And then from there, you can extrapolate further and start looking at LPRs and surveillance videos, other ring camera footages. I know there's...
So it's the Soul, the S-U-L, the Soul is what they're talking about, that car from last night. But the video is from the night of Nancy's disappearance.
Technology where you kind of try to dissect the make and model of the vehicle, but the video itself has to be pretty good. And they do that like with positioning of headlights, the shape of the headlights, the style of the vehicle, is the boxy, is the curve. So I think they can probably get some evidence from it. Where it leads, like that remains to be seen.
And when you say LPR, license plate readers, are there a lot of those around this area?
Well, no. Well, there is in Metro Tucson. So Pima County, like the sheriff's department, basically works on the outside.
Yeah, and the car from last night is a Kia Soul. That's what it is.
On the skirts of the city, but Pima County itself, in that area, it's pretty urban. So there are license plate readers out there. Like you're not going to see it like to the level of Phoenix or some of the bigger cities in the country. But there are, unfortunately, there's probably not as much as we would like.
Are you surprised? Because it was a reporter who found that video. Are you surprised? I mean, there's just been hundreds of law enforcement here between the FBI and Pima. Are you surprised that they didn't track it down first?
Well, let me say this. I just find it troubling that this video has listed, and with the amount of attention this incident has created, you would think that the neighbors would have just been scouring through their ring camera footage. And like, how long have you actually been sitting on this? You know, how long was the person who provided the video, how long did they look, like wait to tell law enforcement, or how long did it take for them to actually review the video surveillance? So I find that troubling. Here's the thing, when it comes to the gathering of evidence, I think you could poke holes very easily at the investigation, and I believe 100% that there were things that were done that we probably could have done better at. the first thing obviously is releasing the scene way too soon. The fact that you're finding 12, 14 gloves, out in the area, a couple miles away, like, honestly, that's just so unprofessional. Be if it's Borstar, the sheriff's department, FBI, what other resources were there? Like, people should know better. Like, that just compromises the integrity of the investigation.
So he's saying that, yes, they opened up the crime scene too soon. And it's also ridiculous for all those gloves to be out there, especially if it was law enforcement throwing out their gloves. But I also think it might not have been just law enforcement. It could have been some homeless people maybe, or other people. But again, that's why I didn't take too much stock in that glove found 2 miles from the home.
In the time that you could be spending working on the Guthrie case, you're wasting time gathering evidence that's just really been discarded by law enforcement personnel or ID techs. So I find that disturbing. The gathering of the actual video footage from law enforcement, we're at 3 weeks at this point. I would have hoped that at a minimum, law enforcement would have made contact with these people if they're within that radius. So in the very beginning, like, your radius is not going to be probably 3 or 4 miles. Right on off jump, you're probably looking at, let's just concentrate on, the block to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, and let's start expanding from there. Or you can start wide, very far out, and then just work your way in and compress that way. Those two strategies work. But I'm wondering, like, still, it's within 2 to 3 miles. Why weren't these individuals contacted by law enforcement? And if they did contact them, then was that video actually available? Was the person forthright with law enforcement? Did he actually admit to have reviewed the video, or they had said, oh, there was nothing there, and then now we fast forward 2-3 weeks later and we're like, oh no, wait, there is something there, and then they come forward. So, like, I don't really know the details of whether or not law enforcement actually made contact with them, but they should have been at least in that defined search area within 3.
So someone in the live chat just said the end of this video is not positive. What does that mean? I don't know. What do you mean by that?
3 weeks. Like, honestly, within the first couple of days, that scene was blown up further and further and further and expanded out pretty wide. So I would have hoped that be it the feds or the sheriff's department or a combination of both with a unified incident command system, that they would have systematically notated who they've made contact with, who they didn't make contact with. And it, unlike other areas like in Metro Tucson, this isn't a grid, so you can't really like do a grid search or anything like that. But someone should be at the command post, or the person who's documenting the operational periods of the investigation, they should be notating that on this street, these are the listed parcels. We went to parcel A, B, C, D. E wasn't there. There was no one home at that time. We went to F, G, all the way down. We need to go back to E. So, with the FBI and the sheriff's department both working on it, I really would I would like to believe that they would have made contact with those individuals. And if they didn't, then that's a mistake.
Have you talked to any? I mean, I'm sure you must have friends still, here and in the department. You didn't retire that long ago.
Yeah.
What's sort of the sentiment? Because a lot of people ask me that, and I'm like, well, I don't. I mean, I talk to the neighbors out here a lot and stuff. But what are you hearing?
Well, I can tell you that at least the circle that I run with, which is really the tactical side, like everyone wants to find a resolution to this. I think there's frustration on everyone's part, and I think that's to be expected. The investigation hasn't gone, I don't say according to plan, but according to the way you see it on Dateline or 48 Hours or on 2020, where, at the end of an hour-and-a-half episode, they've already processed the scene, they've interviewed people, they've tracked suspect downs, they've got an interview on tape, a confession, and all of a sudden it ends with someone in custody. Like, that's not reality. But I do think that it is frustrating that it's taken this long. But there are some things that are just outside of their control. Now, like, where does that frustration stem from? I think part of it is the investigation itself, maybe how it was handled immediately, not having clear defined roles as to who is taking on what responsibility, a clear unified incident command system. And listen, you can have all those things in place, but perception is reality. You could have a unified incident command system in place in theory or on paper, but not be working in a unified manner. So what I think you're seeing is the projection of frustration of maybe how the investigation was handled. And honestly, what I see a lot is the frustration of the blowback on the sheriff's department as a whole. Now, the sheriff has taken his hits, and I think he's taken responsibility for some of those hits, which he should. And I think he's admitted, hey, we probably released the scene too soon. There are times that you just need to throw yourself on the sword and call a spade a spade. It is what it is. But I think I think there's this umbrella feeling that the negative publicity kind of reflects on the people who are actually working on the case, and nothing could be further than the truth. Like these guys are working hard. No, everyone wishes this case would have been over and done with, would have been resolved by now, but it hasn't. And then when there's media coverage, which kind of suggests that maybe there's inadequacy at the sheriff's department, I think that kind of just reflects negatively as a whole on the department itself. And I think the troops really get down on that, because no one wants to be famous for a botched investigation. Like, it's guilty by association, and I feel it too. I've worked for the sheriff's department 29 years. I love the sheriff's department. Like, I wouldn't have done it any differently, and I'm proud to have been a deputy and a sergeant there. But when I tell people now that I worked at the sheriff's department, like, I kind of cringe, because I'm expecting someone to say something about the department, and that we're not as good as maybe we thought we were.
Well, I mean, what can you expect also when former Undersheriff Rick Castiger is saying what he's saying about Sheriff Nanos, and the same with Union leader Sergeant Cross? I mean, a lot of them have not so good things to say about the leadership. That no confidence vote speaks pretty loudly too, where only one person in the anonymous confidence vote had confidence in Sheriff Nanos. But what can you expect in that case? And especially since this is the biggest case in America right now, and it just doesn't seem like they're any closer to solving it. So, but again, if you're here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Like for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Say hello to the flock of black sheep and other night owls in the live chat here. We got a great group of people, and I go live every night to talk about true crime and current events at a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern. And thank you very much to all the support I've gotten tonight. Gotten more support tonight than I think I've ever gotten, so I'm very grateful for that.
So you're saying it's not the people on the ground doing the work; it's more the people making the decisions. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is, first of all, leadership comes from the top down, right? The sheriff has his hands full, as would anyone. I think everyone in this scenario would struggle to some degree, kind of putting it out there for the media and coordinating, honestly, the chaos that ensues with an investigation like this. I think if I were in the sheriff's shoes, or I was the sheriff for a day, one of the things I probably would have done would have been maybe just streamline the output of information a little bit more, because here's the deal: when you do interviews one-on-one, you get asked questions that are generally the same, but there's like part of that question that's just slightly different than the next question. So when you do multiple interviews, let's say in a day, and I don't know how many interviews he's done in a day, like I don't have access to that. All I know is what I've seen on TV. But what you see is you get an answer to a question that sounds generally the same, but then the answer is different every time.
Yeah.
And what happens is that creates confusion. I think there's value in doing a media conference with local media and national media.
So what they never did, though, they never did a joint press conference, Sheriff Nanos with the FBI. I don't think we've heard the FBI announce one thing in this case. Everything has been from Sheriff Nanos. And I think Sheriff Nanos could have easily just handed it over almost immediately, because if the FBI has superior technology, superior manpower, what do you gain by not handing it over to them? It kind of, to me, it makes it seem like he wanted to solve it, considering who it was: Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie, hometown heroes there. So he wanted to maybe do what was best for him and his ego, according to the people that worked with him, right? An ego that is hard to describe without sounding hyperbolic, to quote Sergeant Cross. But if you want to do what's best for Nancy, why not turn it over at that point? So I could ask the chat, do you think Sheriff Nanos should have turned it over to the FBI? Press 1 if you think so, or press 2, no, you're okay with local law enforcement being in charge. So 1, turn it over to the FBI. 2, you're okay with local law enforcement being in charge.
And saying, hey, the news is that there's no news. Because what happens is we live in a world of like, we want information and we want it now. We're not used to in society of having an investigation be this public.
And remember, the only way the FBI would be in control, the local law enforcement has to give it up to them, or the Guthrie family would have to write a formal suggestion, a request to have the FBI take it over. The FBI can't just come in and say, yes, we're superior to you, we're taking over. That's not how it works. Considering it was all in local law enforcement's jurisdiction, it's up to local law enforcement to turn it over, or for the Guthrie family to make a formal request.
And drag out for so long and then still have media present on scene.
So I've been away from home for a while for work, and one of the things I miss so much are my Factor meals. They make it so much easier to eat better, and Factor is a sponsor of today's video.
Something about the investigation, and by the time it gets from that person down the chain to maybe the 10th person, it is completely different. And all of a sudden you've got all these working theories, and none of which could be further from the truth. Like that's just the reality. So I think if we probably just cleaned up the communication, that would probably help a lot. However, there isn't much to update, but I do think there is value in routinely at least letting people know, hey, listen, we're still working the case. This is where we're at. And the news is that there is no news. At least people would understand, like, okay, they're still working it, but nothing much has changed. And just have it just come out one time and then everyone can get it at the same time, versus doing it individually and running the risk of it not coming out the way you had hoped it.
Right. Makes sense. They put a statement out today, the Pima County Sheriff's Office, saying, and I was trying to read between the lines here, the Pima County Sheriff's Department is refocusing resources to detectives specifically assigned to this case. As leads are developed and resolved, resource allocation may fluctuate.
Yeah.
So I was trying to kind of understand what they meant. It seems like in the beginning, maybe they had everyone thrown at the case, and now they're just going to have specific detectives that work it. Is that kind of the way you read it?
Oh yeah, there's no reading between the lines there. I mean, the feds pulled most of their resources back to Phoenix, and I think what you're seeing is the sheriff's department is following suit. Listen, just because resources are being scaled back doesn't mean that the investigation doesn't continue forward. Like, they're still working it, but at this point, like, where's the value in having all your resources put into one case when there really like when you've already exhausted, all your leads, like evidence is only taken you so far. Like there's not much value in having all your resources in that one bucket. At some point, you got to say, all right, how many people do we need to actively and effectively continue working this case? And if that's 5 or 6 detectives, great. The rest, honestly, at some point, they've got to go and work on their other cases. Like there are other victims, and I'm not trying to poo-poo Nancy Guthrie.
So by the way, I'm not that entertained by this guy. So do you want me to continue watching this, or do you want me to go check out Megyn Kelly and Maureen O'Connell? So press 1 for stay here, press 2 for Megyn Kelly and Maureen.
Or anything like that. But there are other cases that need to be resolved, and other victims need attention too. So I think it's a smart move by the sheriff's department and the sheriff to come out and say, hey, listen, and being honest and forthright about it, saying we're scaling back, and there's nothing wrong with that. And every agency in the country would do the same thing. The FBI already did it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the detectives I met out here said that was one of the reasons they thought that this should have gone to the FBI fully initially, because they have the resources to keep it staffed up long term. Whereas here, they're not investigating other crimes because there's just not enough people if they've got everybody on Nancy Guthrie.
So, listen, when you're at the top of the food chain as the sheriff, with that comes public expectation. And part of that public expectation is that you're actively involved in the cases that occur in your community, because there's significant value in getting the folks who work in the community to solve the crimes that occur in the community. The FBI can come in, and they come in with a cold, sterile approach because they're not necessarily connected to.
So we're at 23 minutes here. We can always come back to this.
Let's start with the latest breaking news just now, and that's the Savannah repost of that short clip on the Today Show, emphasizing you can stay anonymous and there's a way to retrieve the reward that would keep you untraceable. Fitz, your thoughts on that?
Sure, and this is a very smart move to make. And we talked early on, Megan, what was it, 3 weeks ago now, put some level of humanity onto Nancy Guthrie. Now the humanity part is being put on Savannah and her family. They want their mother back, and they're basically saying, in any condition here, here's the $1 million. I know, yeah, by the way, no strings attached. You can get it without any. I'm not sure if you have to pay taxes on it or not, if the government takes something out up front, but who cares about that? But it's going to be a substantial amount, close to $1 million, perhaps in cash, and that is going to be a strong incentive. So where the early on stage was humanizing the mom, now it's humanizing us. We realize things may have gone bad in so many words they're intimating, but at least give us our mom back and let the family have closure on this. There'd be nothing worse, of course. I've interviewed parents of little kids who have gone missing and have never returned. That's probably the worst. But even having any loved one, such as a parent, that you can't somehow have closure, put them in their resting spot and have the final rights, et cetera, that has to be tough too. So it's $1 million is probably easy for them to put up.
Let's see here. Thank you very much here for the super chat. I tried to warn you. I don't know what that means. Try to warn me about what?
And they mean it. They mean it with all their heart. They really want their mother back. And I'm hoping someone out there, 1 or 2 people involved in this, can look at this and have some element of their heart. Just say, you know what, we can do this in a tricky sort of way. Let's just make this phone call, go pick this money up, and then go from there. And I hope that person is listening. And if there's any little bit of a heart that they have, they follow through.
Maureen, here's the clip that Savannah reposted just now. So what she thinks is the most salient part of her nearly 2-minute video she dropped the other day.
But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason,
Okay. About the other video, you mean being negative. Okay. I get it now. Thank you.
Reason we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery. All of the information about this reward and the details is in the caption below. You can call the 1-800 tip line. You can be anonymous if you want. Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now.
She captioned it, "Please bring her home. You can be anonymous." So if memory serves, what was omitted there from the first video that this was clipped from are discussions of the agony the family's been in and references to their understanding that she may no longer be with us. She may be with Savannah's dad, with Nancy's parents in heaven. So sort of all that humanizing stuff, like take about Nancy and about the family taken out and boiling it down to bring her home. You can be anonymous. And here's $1 million.
It's haunting, really, and it worked on me. I can tell you that. I mean, I could feel her broken heart through that message. And to Fitz's point, I think it's the right thing to do right now. And if they can get him that money anonymously, good for them. They're going to have to produce Nancy some way, somehow before that. And, you know, my advice is take the money and run. If this is who you are and this is what you did, get that money, take that money, and just good luck to you.
Can I ask you this, Savannah, in all these videos, you've sort of seen her. We talked about the fact that the one day she decided to put her makeup on, you know, like the first couple of videos, she clearly didn't have any makeup on. Her eyes were so puffy from all the crying. This was right after Nancy was taken. And that obviously was a choice. And then I thought it was a good sign. She did one with her makeup on, like she was kind of coming back to life, putting on her armor, you know, which makeup can be for a woman, especially a woman who's on camera every day. That's how you're used to seeing yourself. Yeah. And here too, she's got a little makeup on. Her eyes are bloodshot. I mean, clearly this woman has been doing nonstop crying. And I wonder if that kind of thing, Fitz, is coordinated with the FBI, like your look. You know, if Savannah wanted to go full glam and put in the Visine and get rid of the red and like not be super up close to the camera. I mean, she knows full well that like this super up close shot is not the most flattering thing ever on any of us. She's doing all this, I think, for a reason. There's no way none of this is like, this is just happenstance. I believe it's all calculated. And what do you think the discussion sounds like behind the scenes on that?
Yeah, I've been in these multiple times in my profiling career, advising people how to go before a camera or put out some kind of a message in some way. I obviously didn't get into the makeup category with if it's a woman doing that, but certainly more importantly the words to choose and the overall demeanor or persona you're going to present on camera or in some kind of a public speaking situation where you're looking for someone to come back into the fold for whatever reason, or someone to give themselves up if they've done a crime. So yeah, this is well coordinated, and I'm certainly assuming there are profilers, behavioralists on the scene, certainly in touch with the family. They're talking to them. They're helping them put the words together. They don't want to offend the person. They don't want to challenge the person. There's no name calling that, you're a lowlife, you're this, none of that stuff. And I'm not saying that either, but just appeal to their their basic.
So, I mean, appealing to their humanity might not even work considering what they did. But in other news in the live chat here, I mean, Johnny says he's trying to help out people because of a promise that his grandfather made. But that's what happens here. Special things happen in the flock of black sheep here. So hopefully we can arrange some of that as well. Life-changing things can happen.
Human nature, and Maureen put it well. It got to her. It got to me too. I mean, it doesn't get more sincere. Megan, you're on camera all the time, and I do my share, and I always, I'm always meaning what I say, but I never had to put something together like Savannah just did, and so much from my heart, and sort of begging people to listen to what I'm saying. And that's a whole different part of your personality and your brain and your psychological makeup that has to come in front of a camera after you've been crying all the time, as you said, Megan. But the bottom line is this was coordinated. They didn't give her the words to say, but I have no doubt that someone came in, hey, let's have your, lighten looks a little bit, nothing heavy duty, but just enough that you're appealing looking and you're talking. You're important. The people watching this, you're important enough. They're important enough to you that you should, look your best whilst talking to them. And that's part of the reason why she may have glammed up, using air quotes here, just a little bit for this, basically this plea to whoever has her mother.
I mean, I do think I said this the other day, but I think it's somewhat of a sign of resilience that she managed to get any makeup on at all and her jacket on, and started to look a little closer to the professional Savannah we've seen. I just think as a woman in the exact same industry that she is, who came up with Savannah, I mean, I literally came up in the business right next to her. We were at the Supreme Court covering the High Court together, she for NBC, me for Fox News, when we were both like cub reporters.
Let's see here. Got another super sticker from Bobby Hanks. Thank you very much for the super sticker. I said I got so many generous souls in the chat today. In the flock of black sheep here, wild things can happen. Because I do believe in the power of manifestation, having a prosperity mentality. Not even joking. Cool things happen here. I'm telling you. Thank you very much for your support, Bobby. Definitely appreciated. So many generous people here today. Good group of people here. Amazing.
She went to NBC. I went to Fox. We covered a lot of the same stories. I wound up at NBC for, a short stint with her. I got to know her very well during that 18 months that I was there, Savannah and her husband. I had known her for all those years prior, but we got to be personal friends. And then the relationship ended when I left NBC for all sorts of reasons. But my point is simply, I know that she's going to feel more together and defended with the makeup on. I just know it. That's just how it is in this industry. So I think it's a good sign. I do think the puffy red eyes are an intentional choice because I'm sure they were authentic and they could have been resolved had she really wanted.
Why is Megyn Kelly even saying this, honestly?
To do that for a camera, but she probably made the choice to show people the pain she's in because of the reasons you're saying. There's no downside. It's real. It's what's real. And there's no downside to telegraphing to the public and to the perpetrator, I'm deeply wounded and you could help me, Maureen. You could help me is what she's saying.
She's also saying, you got me. You wanted to hurt me. You hurt me. You got everything you wanted. I am broken. My family is broken. Can we end this now? I'm willing to pay you my hard-earned money to end this now.
I surrender.
Yes.
You won.
Yes.
Ugh. Oh, it's stomach turning when you think about it like that. That's not because the perpetrator will watch this. You point that out all the time, Fitz. That the guy's out there watching all this coverage, and there's no question he's watching Savannah's latest messaging, and so he's going to see it. Like, it's so creepy for her to know that whatever she chooses to put out there, he will be watching and assessing and will have a new decision to make. Right now, this morning, as we speak, he has a new decision to make, Fitz.
Yeah, and this all goes back to from, again, day one, what is the motivation behind this? If it's strictly money, if this is strictly a transactional crime that was committed on the part of this one, if not two or more people, I haven't locked in on that at this point. All right, so now this is kind of an offer you can't refuse. I mean, you got away. You pulled an abduction very successfully. And I've said this before. You can talk about the flowers at the camera and all that kind of stuff, weird holster. They got away with this thing. They got away with this thing. If there was ever about money, which I'm not convinced that's the case, but even if it wasn't about money, you've got a golden opportunity here. And Savannah is doing her best. And her inner makeup and her outer makeup is so expressive of what she's saying right now. She's not acting. And I don't know her at all, of course, but I'd be very much surprised if there was any acting in here at all. So this person now goes back to motivation. Why was Mrs. Guthrie taken from her home at, after 2 a.m. Or around that time that Sunday morning? That we don't know. If it was about money, maybe this is a chance to then capitalize on it. If it was for some other reason, deeply personal to one or more family members, They said, nah, this hasn't gone far enough. You've done this to me, again, real or perceived. You've done this to me in the past, a week before or 2 decades before. You're going to keep paying. And if they don't react to this $1 million reward with virtually no strings attached, that would lean me towards the fact that this is a highly personal crime done for highly personal reasons, and money was never a factor.
Oh, or can it just be the person scared? Like they're like, holy shit, the 400 cops, I don't believe it's not traceable. I'm not, I got away with it and I'm not going to jail now. So nice try, but I'm piecing out.
It was high risk.
You're shaking your head.
High risk to begin with this crime. Yeah. They knew who this woman was and to whom she was related. I don't think that would scare them off now. And if they think they could pull this,
I think it was definitely very personal for revenge, punishment, or maybe a stalker, not a burglary gone wrong. That's been my impression, especially since I saw how Nancy and Savannah were interacting on Savannah's show. The fact that they got along so well, and it seemed like they have a very genuine relationship, punishment seems to be a part of this. And what could also contribute to that? Envy. When people are envious of someone, those are the people that you want to tear down. Those are the people that you want to punish. So that could be a part of the motive as well.
Pulled it off perfectly so far, quite frankly. They've had other people try to come in and take money from them. I'm convinced. Multiple people, probably from overseas, wherever, with the whole Bitcoin thing, TMZ, all that. So it's like, all right, well, now this is my turn. I made my cause. I sent my message. Maybe now I'll take the money. But again, if the money isn't the issue here, then perhaps this is for a whole reason that's highly personal. I used the word revenge early on to describe this side of the abduction as opposed to for profit on the other side. And that is so deeply entrenched in this person. Look at the Brown shooter. Went back 30 years to Portugal, and his anger with this then fellow student. And he goes up to, MIT outside of Boston and kills him there after, of course, shooting up the university itself. So these types of issues, can go back that far. It may be something more closely connected to more recent times, but
Chatty, I do think the majority of ransom notes to TMZ are scams. They were opportunist exploiters. I don't really think any of them were real, honestly. So that's my opinion on those.
This is the proverbial fork in the road for this person.
International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There's a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the.
What I'm saying is I'm not completely ruling out a stalker. There is such a thing as gang stalking too. But I'm not saying I know for sure.
To the community, they don't know who the people are, the players and stuff like that. However, in a perfect world, if I were king for the day and the FBI said, hey, we would like to take this off your hands, I would say, have at it, man. Like honestly, like go ahead. And it's not a thing about it's not an I don't think here. It's there are some cases that just require more attention and more resources that you can adequately throw at it. So there are times where it's okay to take the lead role and have feds play secondary. And it's also okay to kind of flip flop that and let the feds take the lead if that's what you feel is best for the investigation. Ultimately, decisions that are made have to be made in the best interest of the investigation. What gives us the best opportunity to resolve this case? If it's us being the lead and FBI supporting us, cool. If it's giving it to the FBI, then you have to let you have to set your ego aside and let that happen, but still be actively involved in a case because there's an expectation that you provide a service to that community. And it's just not a simple handoff and we're clean and we're done with it and we don't care anymore. Like regardless of who takes the lead, the sheriff's department still has to play an active role in it.
The ego thing is interesting because I don't know if that's just something that people within law enforcement would be talking about. Because I'm just thinking, let's say the sheriff day 2 or 3 said, you know what? FBI is taking the lead on this. They've got the resources. They've got the technology. I would think people would look up to that. I mean, no one's going to say, God, that's a terrible sheriff who doesn't want to. I would be thinking, yeah, let the FBI do it. You know, he's doing the
Sure.
right thing.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You got to think about the psychological effect too. So we have community expectations, but we have internal expectations too. You know, if the sheriff, because the sheriff's in a between.
So if you're still here, please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl, and for the flock of black sheep here too. Amazing flock of black sheep in the live chat. Many blessings and great things happen here. I don't think Johnny's trolling, by the way, either. But also subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I go live every night to talk about true crime and current events a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern.
In a rock and a hard place, honestly. If he says, hey, I'm going to give it to the FBI, I guarantee you half the people in the department would be like, oh, that's a great idea. And the other half are going to say, what? You don't think we can do a good job? You don't think that we're smart enough? You don't think that we're capable enough? Haven't we proven ourselves to be good detectives? We have a very high resolution on homicides in Pima County as far as sheriff's department goes. Like, I guarantee you that psychologically there would be people on the department who would take significant offense to relinquishing control to the FBI, not because they don't want the case resolved, but maybe they may feel like it's a reflection of their ability, and it isn't.
Interesting.
But that's a natural reaction. Like it's the same as so. For example, I was on SWAT in K9, did a ton of missions, and I know FBI HRT was in town, right? Well, as the Pima Regional SWAT team, like, you want to be the team that does the rescue. Like you want to, like, that is what you train for. That is it. That is the pinnacle of what you would do on SWAT is a hostage rescue. And not to say that giving it to FBI HRT would be wrong, because they are exceptional at what they do. I expected them to do that, and I don't see anything wrong with them coming in and taking over for hostage-specific scenarios. However, internally, as a team member, you want to be that guy. You want to be that person, because deferring it to another team means you're not, in some way, it feels like you're not capable enough to do it.
So on a side note here, people should send some good vibes to Bella. We've been sending good vibes to Bella because of her brother was on life support. She mentioned a funeral home, so I don't know if that means if her brother passed away or not. But either way, definitely send some love and good vibes her direction. Either way.
And the difference between your regular municipal or regional SWAT team and FBI HRT is that FBI HRT, that's all they do. That's all they do. That their sole focus is that. So they're going to be better at it than a team that trains twice a year and maybe does a couple of 1 week trainings throughout the year, which is like the national standard. And it doesn't mean that if the Pima Regional SWAT team did a hostage rescue that they wouldn't be effective. I would expect them to be effective. I was part of the team. I know there are great guys on that team. I would expect nothing less. But being put off to the side to let, like, the big boys come in and take care of it, it does sting a little. Like that is, like, that's just human. That's just part. That's just,
I know, you're right. I think about that even in my industry. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting the way you explained it. Since you did search and rescue, you know this area so well.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of searching going on. I mean, there maybe the first day we saw a little bit, the first day or two, but it seemed like from the beginning, other cases I've covered, you'll see the dogs out. You'll see helicopters up every day for weeks. Why do you think we haven't seen that?
Well, I don't know if we haven't seen it. I haven't been on scene. And again, all I can do is evaluate based on what I've seen on TV. What I've seen is I've seen waves of searching. So let me tell you, like hindsight is 20/20, right? Like, I can go back and be like, hey, you should have done this, you should have done that. but we knew probably very early on that this was an abduction for ransom, or honestly, in my opinion, more than likely a burglary gone wrong, right? And I could talk about that later on. But when you start searching, it becomes difficult because you have to approach it methodically. If like you're either all in on searching the area or you're not. It's not a toe in the water thing. So if you're going to search, one, you need an aerial search, like which I know they were up there, and be it with our fixed wing or a helicopter, and maybe other resources like with DPS Ranger. I'm not sure if they were involved or not, but we have the resources to do an aerial search. Now with searching with dogs, okay, so I know Boar Star was out there. So the sheriff's department has dual purpose dogs. So that all that means is that they're narcotics certified and patrol certified, which means they're certified to search, locate, and apprehend people. But we don't have any tracking dogs that do scent identification. So I know that there was an issue with maybe I think a Boar Star agent leaving a piece of clothing on the side of the road. So that's scent identification where, like, it's like what you would see, like, hey, the dog sniffed it. They identified to that specific odor. And then there are dogs, human odor on the ground. And then there are like cadaver dogs that are specifically searching for bodies. So in this case, the sheriff's department isn't equipped to actually search with their patrol dogs, because the patrol dogs, all they're doing is searching for human odor, any human odor. And with as much foot traffic as there was, like it's an unreasonable ask to have a patrol dog just search for human odor, because they're going to pick up the person in the yard next door. They're going to pick up all the reporters who are on the side of the road. Like it would be a very difficult search area. Now, one thing looking back, what I think could have been done better is our department has a top-notch search and rescue unit. It is one of the best, if not the best, in the state of Arizona. Operationally, they're typically at number 1 or number 2 in the country, doing about 200.
Thank you for the super chat here. Forever. How can I share my theory? It's all data points and timeline and why, but it's too much for chat. Well, you can break it down into parts. You can tell us your theory. We're all for a good theory here. You'd have to break it down into parts, though. I won't let you do everything all at once. But thank you for your support.
25 search and rescue missions a year. Okay. When we're searching for a missing hiker, okay, so we get a missing hiker up in Mount Lemon. We go up there that night. Their car's up there. No one's heard from them, and we think they've been they're lost on trail. Okay, cool. We start doing searching on an operational period, and what we will do is we will literally take that trail and we will blow it up in. I mean, when I say blow it up, I'm talking about 5x5 maps, and we'll start doing something called.
So the guy on the left is a burglary expert, and he works for the local law enforcement. But again, I don't agree that the ransoms were a thing with this case. I don't think I trust them at all. And I don't think this is a burglary either. So
segmenting, and we'll segment specific areas and segment it so that we can search those areas, and then we allocate resources to those areas, and then we do searching based on critical spacing so that a searcher can see another searcher, so that we know what's in between us and nothing gets missed. So looking back, I think there was a really good opportunity here to get search and rescue involved in that way. However, when search and rescue does that, they're running the search and rescue mission. This turned into an abduction, and we don't think she's here. So I think what happened was like, okay, well, we're searching. Okay, let's search today and see if we can find some evidence. Okay, I'm not comfortable with that search, so let's go and search for this. Or we got a tip, let's go search again. I think if we would have brought search and rescue in and just let search and rescue loose and let them do what they do, and they could have coordinated at least the search portion of it, be it for Nancy, which we know was probably not going to be anywhere remotely in that area or anything of evidentiary value, they could have used their skill set, segmented that neighborhood either 2 or 3 mile radius, and then segmented, and then we could have started allocating resources and then defining specific search areas so we don't have to go back and wonder, man, did we miss something? Did we actually search this area? Did we actually go down this wash? Because then you start to wonder. Listen, I've searched that area hundreds of times. I've looked for burglary suspects there a bunch of times.
This area
Like,
right where I am, right outside Nancy's.
Yeah, that area. Listen, these areas that are in the foothills, they're notorious for burglary. So a couple things. One, this is a rare occurrence in the sense that burglaries are crimes of opportunity, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with this guy's theory about it being anything burglary related. It's personal, not burglary, in my opinion.
Burglars don't want confrontation. They want to go in, they want to get what they want, and they want to get out, and they want to go undetected. Most of them have probably already been arrested for burglary in the past or other criminal offenses. And if they know if they get caught, they're probably going to have to do prison time. So burglars typically don't want confrontation. A lot of burglaries occur in the day for that reason, because people are at work. Now, this one is a little off because this is happening at night. So if someone has actually done surveillance, and it looks like, based on the 2 images that are out there of him showing up maybe a week or so before without the gun in his waistband, that person is now going into that home expecting someone to be in there. And I have worked several cases, especially in canine, where suspects have fled the scene of burglary suspects who actually will take the risk and go inside of a home knowing that someone is in there. But that is incredibly risky for them. For the most part, they do it when they know someone's not there. Like, if you're a burglar, why would you go there when you know when someone's there? Because that person can easily grab the phone and call 911. So, like, there's a lot of things that I think were, and I don't know if people have speculated about this, but I don't think it's been emphasized enough. Where, like, obviously this is not the only person on scene. It's not. Burglars don't burglarize homes by themselves. So let's separate this. This is either.
Now, he's right. That person's not the only person on scene, more than likely. But he's wrong if he thinks it's a burglary, in my opinion.
A call, an abduction for ransom, and the ransom itself is legit and is actually tied to the crime, or this is a burglary that went wrong, and the ransom is just sophisticated people, by the way, taking advantage of the crime and have nothing to do with the burglary itself. So those are like 2 possible scenarios.
When the ransom never seemed to add up, really, because they never gave a real way to show proof of life or to really pay the money. But a burglary gone wrong, though. I mean, why would they be burglarizing Nancy's house of all houses?
Now, that's the one thing that I just can't understand. So typically, like, what is it about Nancy Guthrie's home that's so valuable that they weren't picked up on Ring cameras doing the same thing before they hit Nancy's home? Or maybe, just out of pure luck, Nancy's home is the first place they hit. I have gone to calls where burglars have actually entered on the east side of town, like on the foothills, but on the east side of town, where burglars have entered multiple homes at night that were occupied. So it's not like outside the realm of possibility. But, like, why? What is it about her home? What is so valuable that they want to target her? Well, she is a soft target. And it's not, and when I say soft target, it means someone who just can't really defend themselves, right? But the target itself, like that, like that's a really big risk that they're taking. So I don't.
This guy's just saying a whole lot of words, but saying so little. That's my definition of word salad: saying a whole lot of words, but saying like nothing. That's what this guy sounds like.
understand why it was just their home. That seems to me to be somewhat suspicious. The ransom
it's
itself.
such a good point, though. You're right. Like, even in my neighborhood, when people have come through, you see they go from door to door, or they check
Yes.
cars. It's not just like one specific house.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing. Like if based on my experience, knowing how burglars act, it would be really ballsy for someone to drive up to that home, park in the driveway, even though you can't see it from the road. Like, and I know that area. Like, you can't see your hand in front of your face at night unless it's a full moon. Full moon will give you some lighting. But to park your car up there right at the driveway is really risky, because what happens if the person inside the home hears the car and calls
Right.
911? So what typically happens is someone will get dropped off. Like if you look at her property and you look at their aerial surveillance and you look down, let's say her property is about an acre big. Half of that acre is fenced in.
And Brian's about tuned out of this, and because this guy just like has a drone, you can hear him talk, and it's just like, eventually it's like wop 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 wop, and Brian's like, are you done yet?
And the other acre half isn't. So you have these parcels that basically kind of just flow into one another. So what will typically happen is burglars will dump someone off or leave a vehicle on another road. I think her I'm not sure, but I think her home is on the south side of the road, just based on video footage that I've seen. So
yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you can go to the road to the south, drop someone off, and that person can literally walk through all those homes completely undetected and come in from the back.
But isn't it? I'm just looking at, I mean, I'm out here now. I mean, it's really, and you know it better than me, but there's a lot of cactuses and just,
oh man,
there's stuff everywhere with
can't walk
thorns.
far. So like honestly.
So here's the thing with this guy, right? He could be very good at his job. He just might not be as good at communicating what his thoughts are and articulating them. They're two different things. Communicating is a different skill than actually being good at a job. Sometimes they can also overlap as well. But
I found it comical to watch. I mean, I hate to say it, but if I found it comical to watch the feds walking around the home, because you could tell they're not comfortable in that environment.
Yeah.
Like you can't go 10 or 20 feet without getting prickly pear or choya.
well, there's actually Maureen and Megyn Kelly talk about the car, so we can listen to that here too. The car from last night.
I want to talk to you about the video. It's very interesting to me that this gets dropped by Fox News last night, which has been doing very good reporting on this. Fox has.
Mhm.
And they find it. I want to read you the way they describe it. I know you're familiar, but the audience. It's a resident of the Catalina Foothills neighborhood. That's Nancy's, who has a street-facing ring cam that caught 12 cars passing by in the morning Nancy disappeared. The recording goes from midnight to 6 a.m. on February 1st. That's the relevant time frame. And the activity occurred near the 2:30 a.m. mark. That's the relevant time. The homeowners, Elias and Danielle Stratagulias, told Fox Digital that the police had not canvassed their neighborhood at all in all the time since Nancy went missing. The FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department have been alerted to the video, right?
And by the way, if you're still here, remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl, and the flock of black sheep that's here. Awesome things happen in the chat. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I go live every night to talk about true crime and current events at a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern. And there's people here from all over the world.
Fox Digital. Not immediately clear whether the video is of any use to the investigation. This is last night. The Stratagulias house is on a back road, Fox writes, North Camino Real, that leads out of Guthrie's neighborhood, avoiding major intersections. Leads out of Guthrie's neighborhood, avoiding major intersections. And they live about 2.5 miles away from the crime scene, which is outside the 2-mile radius of neighbors who received a ring alert asking for video taken from Jan 1 to Feb 2. So the concentric circle drawn by law enforcement did not include this house, but this couple nonetheless checked their Ring camera and found something they think may be of relevance. Their house, writes Fox, is roughly a 7-minute drive from Guthrie's address, as I mentioned in the intro. One of their videos was recorded around 2:36 a.m., which is roughly 8 minutes after Guthrie's pacemaker last synced with her iPhone. So the timing would work.
Yes.
Danielle said the number of cars passing that night was not unusual, but she and a friend found it odd that no one from law enforcement had visited the neighborhood. The route itself had been flagged to Fox News Digital by another neighbor who said she also saw a suspicious man walking in the area on Feb 2, which would have been Monday, around the corner from what appeared to be an abandoned car. And then finally,
So did we hear about this before? The suspicious person walking by an abandoned car February 2nd. I'm still curious about that person Brian Hitton was interviewing, the woman in the car that said it looked like someone was casing the neighborhood. I don't know what came of that.
she says she described that man as 5'9" tall, Hispanic with a close trimmed beard and wearing a silver bracelet, smoking a cigarette. And then this is actually the final point. Another unidentified man was spotted in mid-January, according to a different neighbor who did not have your typical walking gear on. He had his hat pulled really far down over his eyes. He was just walking in the neighborhood near an intersection leading to Guthrie's home, and hadn't encountered him before or after. Kind of younger, just didn't look like he was going out for a walk.
Thanks for becoming a member here, Susan. Definitely appreciate you. And also definitely appreciate all of Johnny's help and his grandfather's help by proxy, right?
She thought he was suspicious. Now we get the TMZ report today saying our FBI source has looked at the video and says it's a dead end. The area where the cars are driving, as well as the ingress and egress, has led the agency to the conclusion the cars have no association with the kidnapping. And yet Fox had reported that this house, the Strategolius house, is on a back road that leads out of Guthrie's neighborhood, avoiding major intersections, and talking about how this is her neighborhood. That's the neighbors themselves say this is her neighborhood. And I feel like the neighbors of all people would know very well if there was an ingress and egress out by their home from Nancy's neighborhood. I don't know. I'm not sure about TMZ, and you tell me whether we should be discounting the Strategolius's new lead so quickly.
Well, there's a lot there. But first of all, if in fact the FBI is discounting this vehicle or these vehicles that drove down that Camino Real, then it's definitely for just a couple of reasons. Number one, they threw up a geofence on that area for that night, and all the cars there were telegraphing different information via cell phone or their or just their vehicle, and they were able to get with those people and find out where they were coming from or going to.
Wait, it can't be that, because the Strategoliuses say no one came to see them since Nancy disappeared. So the FBI certainly hadn't ruled them out. No. They hadn't seen this and ruled it out prior to this because no one had come to see them.
Right.
And also, there was a report after this by Fox that the FBI was seen going to visit the Strategoliuses after the Fox News report. But I mean,
right.
So I guess overnight, they may have ruled it out between like the time the Fox News Digital report hit yesterday evening and the time the TMZ.
So Maureen has a podcast. We went over the name of it last night, but I already forget what it is. So what's the name of her podcast again?
Report hit this morning, but they definitely hadn't ruled this out prior to yesterday evening.
Right. Here's what I'm saying. Well, I think it came out yesterday mid-afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. The Fox it came out on that, and a lot of people were getting alerted. What I'm saying is, right then you've got the CAS team with the FBI, and they're already doing all kinds of work, and they're up to their eyeballs in it. And now they're like, okay, let's throw a geofence. You don't have to go there. You don't have to visit anyone. Initially, and you put a geofence up on that area at that time frame to see who's going past. Now, what we would expect if these were the offenders is we would expect no activity coming from the car, maybe a little from the telematics, but definitely not from cell phone data, because we've already found out that there was no cell phone data pinging or anything around that house. They probably used little handheld radios or something. So they looked at that. They found out who those people were. They could have dispatched agents to those houses last night at midnight, for all we know, and they could have followed their phones wherever they went. All the way to an investigative end, so to speak. So they could have done a lot of work last night, and it wouldn't be the first time a police officer or an FBI agent showed up at your door in the middle of the night, because they probably wanted to really hammer this down. We don't know that happened. We don't know that would have. All I can say is I would expect one or two of those vehicles to have no telematics pinging, or nothing from phones pinging. If this was our offender,
perp,
or maybe two vehicles.
Yeah, the follow-up reporting, Fitz, from Fox was, per Michael Ruiz, Pima County detectives arrived at the home of the Strataguliases yesterday on Camino Real, where the new Ring video was taken. So it does appear that in response to the Fox News digital report, they went there and they spoke with this couple. And then by this morning, not the Pima County Sheriff's detectives, but the FBI, which has been somehow Harvey's source in this whole thing, is saying it's a dead end. He puts it as, quote, "It is a dead end. The area where the cars are driving, as well as the ingress and egress, has led the agency to the conclusion that the cars have no association with the kidnapping."
Well, Maureen did an eloquent job of explaining the cell tower markers and what's coming out of the car and all those type of things. But I think all of us rely on what's worked for us in the past and investigations and the technology of.
So the name of Maureen's podcast is Best Case, Worst Case. And it says this audio podcast. It's not on YouTube. So you have to go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And the other thing, backwards guy isn't double backpack guy. There is a third video where a guy does backward to the front door. I mean, which video is that though? I mean, there's double Nest Cam videos. There's the video of the guy that was cleared. What's the backwards walk one? I don't think I've even seen it. I mean, is it one that people are saying it's the two different nights of the Nest Cam? All right.
Course, maybe DNA, if we're lucky, will ultimately perhaps help solve this case. But I also, in earlier cases I worked, my police career, as well as even FBI.
So is it part of the Nest Cam footage you're saying? I mean, we've seen it. I just don't remember seeing anyone walking backwards in it.
New York, and later as a profiler, reaching out to the public is always an interesting way to sort of narrow the suspect pool. And it's certainly in a situation like this. And I would like to see, perhaps on the part of the Sheriff's Department, the FBI, to put something out there like, all right, everybody, we all know about this crime that occurred, when it occurred, where. Can we ask for anybody who was driving in that area, if you're in the range of the internet, which of course everyone is where it's going to be posted, and you were out there driving, could you contact us and let us know? And just maybe you saw something. You're not a suspect. Maybe you saw something, a car went by, somebody pulled over, doing something strange. And then these videos that there may be more videos coming in, there may be some we don't know about also. And do your best to slow everything down, blow them up. There's technology now, they can make it probably read the tags. And then if a person in one of these cars does not contact the FBI or the Sheriff's Department, doesn't mean they're guilty of anything, but it's something I think we'd want to talk to them. They can have an affair and they shouldn't be out, doing what they're doing at 3 a.m., whatever. But let's try to get people to come forward and say, yeah, I was driving right in that neighborhood, or a mile away or 2 miles away. If you're you're in some of these back roads that you described, Megan, I don't know the area well, but I'm looking at the map. This is not a wrong turn you made. You're there for a reason. You know where you're going, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And
clearly the person who took Nancy knew where he was
absolutely.
going.
And just put out there, hey, anyone who's driving, between 1 a.m. and 3, they can make it anytime they want. Can you just contact us and let us know? And if they do identify some cars, tags, ownership, et cetera, and that person didn't call, that doesn't mean they're guilty, but at least move them up a few notches on the suspect list, and let's do some more follow-up with them. That's how I would go about this. They may have already, they haven't done the posting as far as if you were driving around, let us know.
International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There's a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And a never-ending list of reasons smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals with Birch Gold Group. Gold can thrive during uncertainty, which is why it's a crucial part of a balanced financial strategy. It gives you peace of mind, given all the events that could impact the U.S. economy. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text MK to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit.
Links don't work in chat, by the way, but a super chat or a super sticker would be able to produce the same thing.
Stuck in you. It's a really brutal environment. But if you want to commit a burglary, you'll find a way to walk through the desert. Like I've seen it a whole bunch. I've had people run through prickly pear patches barefoot to escape apprehension. So like the will of someone who wants to commit a crime should never be underestimated. So like I think it's very plausible that they could have walked in from the south, going up north, or someone could literally just drop them off at the front of the house, and then they could have just walked in and then call the vehicle in afterwards. Now,
but how does some regular Arizona burglar get away with this to the point where you've got the FBI, you've got President Trump applying pressure, you've got literally every resource of the federal government, the signal sniffers, the way they found the camera video through Google, which I don't think has ever been done before. Like some just guy who's burglarizing the neighborhood has managed to outsmart everybody.
So it's a good question. How to not get sued for defamation. So what you do is, one, you can say an opinion, but what you can't do is say something that you know is false and say it anyway. So it has to be proven that you know it's false, and then it has to be hurting their finances. That's defamation. All right, so those are the things. So what Candace Owens would do is she would say, oh, this is what this woman Elizabeth has to say about Erica Kirk, and she knows what she's doing when she's doing that, because that'll make it less likely she's sued, because it's not her saying it. So let's see here. Someone else says, DJ's allegedly I'm a True Crime 1998. I don't know what that is, but maybe they have a true crime channel.
So let me just talk about the ransom and then how that connects. I have found people like on swatting calls where it's a fake SWAT call, and they just and it turns into a call. They just call and saying, "Oh, I've just killed someone," and then all the resources go. I have located through our own criminal investigations unit people through IP addresses through their gaming systems that get hacked. If we can find that, and they found the mope in California who wasn't sophisticated. The fact that the feds can't find who sent these emails, the wallet for
the Bitcoin,
for the crypto, for the Bitcoin wallet, like the fact that they can't track it down, to me, is really alarming.
I just mean even who came to Nancy's house. Like, there's not a way with geofencing. I would have just thought, again, with the pressure of the of the president of the United States being invested
I
in this
do.
case, talking about it on Air Force One, that Cash Patel wouldn't have some secret.
Right.
We
Yeah,
got
no,
Bin
I
Laden.
agree.
You know what I mean? Like,
I would have thought that they would have been able to kind of just shrink all that data down. I know that there are private companies who are trying to work this call and shrink this data down. For example, like cell phones turned on and then turned off in that area, and then turning back on after a certain amount of time. Like, so listen, burner phones, not that they can't be tracked, but burner phones are a little bit more difficult. I mean, don't put it outside the realm of possibility that people are just like on handheld walkie-talkies. Like, I've actually seen that before. You can go to Costco and get yourself a nice walkie-talkie, and someone can park a mile down the road and you can still communicate with them. But I do think it's a mystery that, like, forensically, the digital evidence, that we haven't been able to kind of snatch some sort of cell phone data that puts someone like in that vicinity that's an outlier, that makes you think like, okay, why is this number, like, one moment it goes dark for 40 minutes, then goes back on later on, but now it's back on, but it's not back on until they go to Avra Valley or something, or it's not back on until they hit I-19 or. I think it is really weird. Listen, I hate to say it, man, but a lot of times we catch the dumb ones. Like that's the saying in law enforcement, we catch the dumb ones. Every once in a while, someone is either really smart or really lucky. I like to think that this person is just like really lucky, because the dude at the front door, he doesn't look that smart.
right.
And if that ransom was legitimate.
So they're saying is they catch the dumb ones. Well, what does that say about law enforcement right now? If this guy doesn't look very smart, but they've gotten away with it, what does that say about local law enforcement and the FBI on the case? Nothing good, right? So is it calculated incompetence like the old AI channel said? Or is it just dumb luck? Or are they really good? And being really good would also point to the calculated incompetence thing as well.
Or I can't imagine the person who was able to create the ransom and not go detected is associated with the person who's kind of bungling at the front door with shrubbery trying to cover up the ring camera. Like, those two don't connect. I mean,
so here's the thing. Since Johnny was so nice with memberships, and hopefully, because he did do that, regardless of what's going on, Johnny did do that. But since that happened, we'll play it forward. DJs allegedly IMO True Crime 1998. Check out their channel. I don't know how good or bad it is, but check it out. See if you can support them.
It's two separate things. Yeah.
I do think it's two separate things. And I think listen, the Guthries have come out and they have voiced what everyone else is already thinking. I don't think Nancy's with us anymore. Now, saying that, I just want to clarify one thing. I hope to God that she's alive. I hope there's a resolution to this. I hope that she's found and these people are brought to justice. But the reality is that that's probably not the case. Like, what if you're a bad guy? What is the value in keeping her alive at this point?
Yeah.
Because she has to be fed. She has to be taken care of. She has to be given medication. I don't know too many bad guys who want to do that. And although there's, and no one will know what happened inside the home until years later, probably. But yeah, there's blood droplets, or maybe more than a droplet, but there's blood on the front patio outside the front door. Like, obviously something happened inside. She may not have left that home alive. Because think about it. If this is a burglary gone wrong, let's just say it's a burglary gone wrong, and you're that 1%.
Not a burglary gone wrong, but definitely possible that she wasn't alive as she left. I think it's 50-50. 50% she was already gone. 50% no, she wasn't gone yet.
Burglar, which I've seen, who has the audacity to go into someone's home while they're still in there. If you're that dude, you have that gun for a couple of reasons. One, to show someone that you're serious so that they comply, or to hurt someone. And I'm not saying she was shot, but or to hurt someone, be it a victim or law enforcement, because and they're not going back to jail. Like they will put up a significant fight. So there is nothing says that there wasn't a struggle there. And the reason why Nancy isn't there, because Nancy herself becomes something of evidentiary value. So like if you know what I'm saying? So like if there's a struggle, like let's say it's a burglary gone wrong and they got into a physical altercation, obviously, because there's blood outside, right? That blood had to come from somewhere. We know it came from Nancy. So let's say something happened inside and they're like, oh my God, she scratched me. Well, now there's DNA under the fingernails. Like there's that transfer of evidence. There's touch DNA, right? So Aunt Nancy herself.
So the motivation initially wasn't to kill her, but in the process, she becomes a connection back to them.
Correct.
Yeah.
At some point, a burglar has to make a decision when confronted. Most of them run. But we have no idea what.
Right. And if it was truly a burglar, you would probably run. If your goal wasn't to take Nancy or do something to harm Nancy, yeah, you're not gonna. Why are you gonna make it 1,000 times worse for yourself and take Nancy too? Unless that was your goal, right? You do it because it was your goal. That's my opinion.
Actually occurred at that home, inside that home. They may have been detected. She may have been reaching for her cell phone, and that created a struggle ensued, right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden that struggle gets out of hand. But here's the deal. If you get detected, you have a choice. You either run and your car isn't there because they're waiting a couple miles down the road, and you're just now you're running through everyone's home yards, probably going to get detected at that point because motion detectors are going to be going off.
Right.
Dogs are going to start barking. Or do you do something that you didn't intend to do? Because you can't leave her there alive and run if she's already detected you and your vehicle isn't there ready to go right now. If you're going to have to run outside that home and run miles, or you're going to have to meet someone to pick you up, that's a really big risk to take. So I think something happened inside the home, and that perpetrator had to make a decision. Either I run now, run the risk of getting caught, or I do something to Nancy so that I don't get caught.
Yeah.
And given the two, like I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but that's police work 101. Like that's how crimes happen. That's how, people go in, I'm just going to do a burglary. And then all of a sudden the worst case scenario happens and they're detected and they're like, well, I don't want to go back to jail.
Now what do I do? Right.
Now
they have a record.
They have a choice. And in that moment, they could have easily had a struggle. And in that struggle, something could have easily gotten out of hand. Because listen, if they get in the struggle and they flee and she's going to call 911 and you're probably going to get caught. So my guess is that I really think that there's a possibility that she didn't leave there alive. And if the ransom was tied to that crime, the ransom just becomes a ruse to kind of just get the cops distracted and put them on another trail. Or the ransom is just completely someone else who's super smart taking advantage of the scenario. But I think it's no evidence. There's no evidence of an individual being there. And the only way for that to happen is they take her with her.
They take her, yeah.
And I think there's 2 or 3 people. I 100% believe there's a minimum of 2 people, maybe 3. 2 people go in the home. Listen, if you're going to burglarize the home, I have seen people burglarize the home but you got to be the person entering the home. You have to be the person subduing the person. You have to be the same person to grab that person and have them come out. Like, you're
Multiple people for sure. I do agree with that part.
you're not the getaway driver, the lookout, and the person doing the burglary all in one. Like, they're going to have at least 2 or 3 people, and I think those 2 or 3 people are at this point sworn to secrecy, and they might not even be here in the United States. Like, if they're smart, they're gone. Because, hey, listen, burglars, like, they're some of the most vile criminals, and they will flip on each other so quickly for $50,000. That didn't happen.
And now $1 million.
And now $1 million.
You know what I mean?
If no one has come forward and rolled on someone else, is because they think that they will also be guilty of what occurred. Because, like, there's a felony murder rule. So if you commit a crime and a murder occurred in that crime, you can be charged for that murder. So someone who might have been the lookout might know, oh man, yeah. Even if I roll and I tell them something, they're still going to prosecute me. So without some sort of level of security, you're not going to man, if someone has enrolled by now for $1 million, I don't think anyone's going to roll, because these guys will sell their mother down the road for $1 million and a lot less.
Yeah, it makes sense. Eric, you were like amazing getting your inside, like, baseball and all this. Thank you for talking with me. I got to run because there's some video I want to get outside Nancy's house, but I'll be in touch. Okay.
All right, man.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, bro. All right. Bye-bye.
Really appreciate Eric for talking with me. And I hope to have more conversations with him in the future. Again, I just found him to be really, really interesting because he knows the area so well. So that's really the latest for today, day 27. I'll let you guys know if anything develops. Still trying to figure out the significance of that surveillance video I told you about yesterday from 2.5 miles away, down that back road that gets away from Nancy's house. What's interesting again about that is that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from the phone at 2:28 a.m. and the video is from around 2:36 a.m. So, and it takes just about that exact amount of time to drive from Nancy's house to where that video was taken. So I'm still interested in that. The sheriff's office and the FBI have acknowledged that they have the video, but beyond that, we don't know whether they're looking into it or taking it seriously. We do know. I did see, or one of my producers saw a detective out at that house yesterday where the Ring camera was. So they're obviously looking into it. So I'll keep you guys posted. Appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. So we're on to the last video, but please remember to like the video. Likes are free. Like for my spirit animal, Shadow the Night Owl. And give us a like for the flock of black sheep. We have an awesome community here. Very supportive of one another. Good vibes. Come in and say hello. And I go live every night at about 10 p.m. Eastern to talk about true crime and current events. So this is the last video about Sheriff Nanos. Let's see what editorial Tony Bruschi has to say.
This is Hidden Killers.
And Kat loves his whistling and shouting. Scream and shout.
With Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
Richard Castigar spent 46 years with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. He rose to chief deputy. He served as Chris Nanos' second in.
Rick Castigar, the person that Brian Enton interviewed, by the way, the one who said that Sheriff Nanos is spiteful and vindictive and his ego is running the show. That Rick Castigar is who Tony Bruschi is referring to.
Command. And when the Daily Mail asked him about how Nanos is handling the Nancy Guthrie investigation, he didn't mince words. He has great disdain for the FBI, Castigar said. They investigated his department in 2016, and he's still pissed. He holds a grudge. That grudge, according to multiple current and former members of Nanos' own department, may be affecting how this investigation is being run. Nearly 4 weeks, no suspects, no arrests, no substantive leads made public, an investigation that Sheriff Nanos insists is running smoothly. Well, sources inside law enforcement tell reporters a very different story.
By the way, only 1.3 thousand likes and however many views we've gotten on this video. Got to at least get to 1.5 thousand, preferably 2,000.
The FBI is involved but playing a supporting role. Critics say Nanos should step back and let the feds lead. He hasn't. And Nancy Guthrie is still missing. So here is the big question. At nobody in an official capacity seems willing to ask out loud. When the people who know a leader best are the ones raising alarms, what does it tell us about how this investigation is actually being run? Let's talk about who Chris Nanos is. 50 years in law enforcement, started as a detention officer in Pima County back in 1984. Worked his way up through the ranks, became second in command, got appointed sheriff in 2015 when his boss retired, lost the 2016 election, came back in 2020, won re-election in 2020.
Tony Bruschi seems like a cool uncle. He's probably got some nieces and nephews who are like, Uncle Tony, you gonna talk to us about true crime, Uncle Tony?
24 by exactly 481 votes out of 487,000 cast. That's a margin of less than 1/10 of 1%. The race required a recount. Nanos has supporters who point to his 5 decades in law enforcement and his experience leading the agency through major cases, including the 2011 Tucson mass shooting investigation that wounded Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. But the criticism now coming from inside his own department is harder to dismiss as political. And to understand that criticism, you have to understand what happened in 2015. That year, the FBI began investigating the Pima County Sheriff's Department for misuse of civil asset forfeiture funds. For those unfamiliar, civil asset forfeiture is when law enforcement seizes money or property from people suspected of criminal activity. The funds are supposed to be used for approved purposes, equipment, training, and that kind of thing. The FBI alleged the department was misusing those funds. Chief Deputy Chris Radke was indicted. He eventually pled guilty to 3 misdemeanor counts of theft of government property. According to Fox News reporting, the department had spent $20,000 building a commercial kitchen to open a cafe that was run by Radke's niece. Nanos was never charged, but the investigation hung over his 2016 campaign like a cloud. He lost that election. And according to Castigar, again, his former second in command, Nanos never got over it. It is widely believed he thinks the FBI cost him his election. Castigar told the Daily Mail. He added that Nanos is still pissed about it a decade later. Now, you might say that's just one person's opinion. Fair enough, except Castigar isn't the only one talking. And the pattern he describes, a leader who treats any challenge to his authority as a personal attack, who holds grudges longer than strategies, keeps showing up in the accounts of those who've worked with him and the allegations now filed in federal court. Take the 2024 election, Nanos' opponent was Heather Lappin, a lieutenant in his own department. According to a federal lawsuit Lappin filed after she declared her candidacy, Sheriff Nanos and department leadership waged a retaliatory campaign against Lieutenant Lappin's career in order to undermine her candidacy. The lawsuit alleges she was referred to internal affairs 5 times after announcing her run. She was transferred to the jail. She was disciplined for teaching a course she had taught 7 times before without incident. Weeks before the election, she was placed on administrative leave. That's verified by the Green Valley News. Sergeant Aaron Cross, the head of the deputies union, who had been publicly critical of Nanos, was also placed on leave around the same time for holding a sign that said, "Deputies don't want Nanos." Lappin is suing for $2 million. The case is ongoing. Nanos has characterized the criticism as political.
And again, Sergeant Cross, the union leader, said that they did an anonymous confidence poll in Sheriff Nanos, and all but one person said they had no confidence in Sheriff Nanos. So Sheriff Nanos did not like that. And in retaliation, what he did was he moved Sergeant Cross from midnights to day shift because union leader Sergeant Cross was on night shift to spend more time with his family. So to be vindictive and spiteful, Sheriff Nanos said, oh, okay, we'll put you on day shift and we'll put you in charge of the people that steal garden hoses instead of something that you're truly capable of. So that's the kind of guy we're talking about here. And it's not always like this. In other communities, other townships, they love their sheriff. But in this community, no, they do not. But the voters love him for some reason, so that's an interesting discrepancy. The co-workers don't, but he got voted in. It was close. It needed an automatic recount, but he did win.
Political, and the allegations in Lappin's lawsuit remain unproven. But here's one specific claim that the lawsuit that matters for the Guthrie case. Lappin alleges that 3 of the best homicide detectives, probably in all of Southern Arizona, were removed from the homicide from that team because they supported me in the election. That's what he said. I want to be clear. That's an allegation, not a proven fact. But when you're trying to understand why an investigation into a violent kidnapping might be struggling, the question of whether the homicide unit was affected by internal politics seems a little relevant. Let's talk about what's actually happened in the Guthrie investigation. And let's start with what Nanos himself has admitted. He acknowledged to the Arizona Republic that his department released Nancy Guthrie's home as a crime scene too soon, then gave it back to the family and had to come back days later to recover additional evidence. In the interim, journalists walked right up to the door and photographed blood droplets that belonged to Nancy. That's not media speculation. That's Nanos saying, in hindsight, the scene should have remained secured longer. And then he walked that back too. Now, did everything good. Then there's the evidence handling. DNA samples and a glove found near the home were sent to a private lab in Florida instead of the FBI's state-of-the-art facility at Quantico. An FBI source told News Nation, and I'm quoting here, "This is dumb, it's insane." Another FBI source told Reuters that the sheriff was blocking federal agents from accessing key evidence. Nanos strongly denies this. To suggest that this sheriff would tell the FBI no on anything, that's crazy, he told News Nation. He said the decision was about consistency, keeping all evidence at one lab that already had the family's DNA markers for comparison. Here's the thing, though. Whether you believe Nanos' explanation or the FBI sources, the outcome's the same. The DNA samples or the private lab processing has been complicated by mixed.
And Tony's correct about this. The outcome has been the same with the DNA samples from the glove and inside the house. Hasn't made a difference yet. And I still don't know what they say Sheriff Nanos withheld from the FBI. I don't think we got clarification on that. Rick Castiger, he made it seem like the fact that Sheriff Nanos wanted to send the DNA to the private lab in Florida, that was part of the problem. That's what Rick Castiger said. But in terms of withholding things from the FBI, we haven't heard anything specifically. We did also hear, though, that 3 people in local law enforcement are making most of the decisions. We heard that, too. But we don't know the specifics about that either.
Samples, and Nanos himself told NBC that resolving the DNA challenges could take weeks, months, or maybe a year. A year. For an 84-year-old woman who needs daily medication and can't walk 50 yards on her own. That's not just the DNA, though. That's seeming to be a problem here. According to a statement obtained by Fox News, the pilot of the county's high-tech search helicopter was disciplined following a dispute with Nanos and reassigned to street patrol during an active kidnapping investigation. That's the allegation. Meanwhile, Nanos has been conducting a media approach that's generated more confusion than clarity. He moved away from joint press conferences after the first one didn't go so well. He shifted to one-on-one interviews with select journalists. The result has been conflicting reports, shifting narratives, and a general sense, even among people sympathetic to the difficulty of the job, that the sheriff is more focused on managing the story than on finding Nancy Guthrie. When News Nation ran a graphic listing 10 investigation mistakes, Nanos sat across from their reporter and said, every single one of those can be disputed. They're completely without any factual basis. When reporters pointed out contradictions in his public statements, he got defensive. When asked about criticism from within his own department, he called it political commentary that distracts from the active investigation. And here's a quote that tells you everything. This is Nanos on the record in multiple outlets. I'm not used to everyone hanging on my every word and then holding me accountable for what I say. Yeah. The sheriff leading the highest profile investigation in this department's history just admitted he's not used to being held accountable for what he says. County Board member Matt Hines, a fellow Democrat, called Nanos out for attending a University of Arizona.
And I wonder if that's a direct quote. He's not used to being held accountable for what he says to the media. Interesting. If so.
A basketball game while the Nancy Guthrie case was in its infancy hours. That does not look good, Hines told him. I mean, dude, watch the game at home. But the basketball game is almost besides the point. What matters is the picture that emerges when you talk to the people who actually worked with Chris Nanos, not political opponents from outside, not cable news pundits, the people who served under him, beside him, in command positions. Richard Castigar, 46 years with the department, former chief deputy. He calls Nanos a quintessential micromanager. He says the case should have gone to the FBI 2 weeks ago. He says Nanos holds a grudge against the bureau that goes back a decade. Richard Kimura, also a former chief deputy, told Fox 10, all those detectives that are working tirelessly, the deputies that are out there, traffic control, everyone is focused on this mission. We are just disappointed at the level or lack of leadership at the senior position and some of the remarks that are quite embarrassing. Sergeant Aaron Cross, president of the Pima County Detectives Organization, told the New York Post, it's a common belief in this agency that this case has become an ego case for Sheriff Nanos. And Heather Lappin,
and that's what Sergeant Cross said to Brian Netton. We went over that on this channel probably about 10 days ago now.
His former lieutenant, told the Hollywood Reporter he's a tyrant. She added, when you put your own ego and your own image to the public over the health and safety of an 84-year-old woman, then that's a problem. Nanos' response to all of this, he told Parade that political commentary distracts from this active investigation and that his focus remains on justice and transparency. That's his answer. Everyone who criticizes him is playing politics. Everyone who questions his decision is creating distractions. The FBI sources are wrong. The reports are wrong. His former chief deputy is wrong. His former lieutenant is wrong. The president of his own deputies union is wrong. Chris Nanos is the only one who is right. Maybe. Or maybe there's a pattern here. It goes back a decade. A pattern, as described by those who know him, of treating any challenge to his authority as a personal attack, of holding grudges, of insisting he's right even when the weight of the criticism suggests otherwise. Here's where we are. The FBI is involved in the investigation, but the supporting one, a supporting role. Sergeant Cross and others have publicly called for Nanos to voluntarily step back and let the FBI take the lead. He hasn't. Nanos maintains the two agencies have a great working relationship. Nearly 4 weeks in, there are no named suspects, no arrests, DNA processing is delayed, and no clear motive has been publicly identified. The family wanted to put up $1 million reward, allegedly, on day one. According to an individual close to the family who spoke to The Hollywood Reporter, law enforcement discouraged it, said it would generate fake tipsters. Lappin's interpretation, his ego doesn't let him make the decision to give it up because he thinks it's going to make him look bad. The reward finally went public this week, more than 3 weeks after Nancy disappeared. People like Chris Nanos exist in every institution. The leader who treats scrutiny as attack, who mistakes control for competence, who holds grudges longer than strategies, who surrounds himself with loyalists and freezes out anyone who asks hard questions. The question isn't whether Nanos fits that description. Reasonable people can disagree, and he certainly disputes it. The question is what it costs when someone with those tendencies is in charge of something this important. His defenders say the criticism is political. His critics include his former command staff. They say the pattern is undeniable. Somewhere between those two versions of reality, an 84-year-old woman is still missing. Chris Nanos says the FBI relationship is great. His former chief deputy says he holds a decades-long grudge against them. Nanos says the evidence decisions were about consistency. FBI sources say it's insane. Nanos says political commentary is distracting. The president of his own deputies union says this has become an ego case. One of those narratives is closer to the truth than the other. And the question of which one matters, because the decisions being made right now will determine how this investigation unfolds. Nearly 4 weeks. The man in charge still says everyone else is the problem. Your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and you.
That's Tony's thoughts on the case for the day. Last video, we'll listen to some Brian Etten on News Nation. Before we close it down for the night, make sure you like the video. Likes are free. Likes for the spirit animals, Shadow the Night Owl, and the fox, my spirit animal, the fox. Can't forget them. And for the flock of black sheep in the comments, of course, too. Now, where is this? There it is.
Genealogy. This is kind of interesting. They are. Yeah, I was just looking through this update that they sent us.
Arizona now, it's day 20 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. We did just get another update from Pima County Sheriff's Office, so let's bring in senior national correspondent Brian Etten, still on the ground in Tucson as he has been from the beginning. So anything new, Brian?
Yeah, I was just looking through this update that they sent us. Some of the stuff we already knew, the DNA analysis is underway, Connell, which we knew that there was DNA recovered from Nancy's home that they're still analyzing. They're going to do the investigative genetic genealogy. This is kind of interesting. They are continuing to look for a suspect, an individual.
And this is News Nation, by the way. Check them out. They are also kind to the channel. The previous person was Tony Bruschi. He's also kind to the channel. So make sure you check them all out. Subscribe to them, watch the content, support them.
Individual captured on doorbell or surveillance video. They are requesting information related to the person, which we've all seen. And this is the part that stood out to me. Investigators are not ruling out the possibility that more than one person may be involved, which we've said for a while. But it's interesting that they're saying that again, because there has been this theory, Connell, that the person in the front who we saw in surveillance video, that there may have also been someone around the back, and this could have been a 2 or 3 person job. And it's interesting now that the sheriff is saying in this official release that they are not ruling out the possibility that more than one person may be involved. So that was the one thing that really stood out to me the most, Connell.
Yeah, it's interesting what they choose to emphasize, right? I guess to some degree, not that that's something we wouldn't talked about or considered, but that they choose to emphasize it in this particular update. I was about to promote this special you're doing over the weekend, but I'll just ask you about it. Tell us, you're going to be on tomorrow night, right? Aren't you taking questions? Tell us what the special's about.
We are, yeah. So we're going to be talking to people live, taking their questions live. It's at 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night, obviously on News Nation. And it's going to be interesting because people have so many questions about this case. And there are things that I don't even think of that they think of or that they see that really stand out. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that. So it's going to be very, very interactive where people are able to tell us what they've noticed, ask us questions, and then we'll have a panel of experts who can really dig in a way that we really haven't had the opportunity to yet, because we'll have the full hour, which will be really awesome, Connell.
It's good. You know, like we've said, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this story in so many ways, but just in the interest.
Is that considered a backward walk there at the bottom?
Just also the public, just, 20 days in, people are still so, there's so much emotion, attachment, I guess, to Savannah Guthrie, to the family, and also just interest in the story and hope that it comes to some sort of a positive conclusion. Brian, thank you.
What do you know? Let's start here. What do you know about this report of a bloody glove that was found near Nancy's home?
This is Jesse Weber on the left. He's from Law and Crime Network. I like their stuff too.
Yeah, so there is a local media outlet reporting that there was a black glove found about a mile from Nancy's home, that it had some blood on it, that the people who found the glove, I guess, had a hard time getting authorities to take it seriously, to even come pick it up. But eventually it seems like it was picked up. I'll tell you, Jesse, though, I mean, there are so many black gloves around here. I mean, I've lost count of how many people have found or seen a black glove in this neighborhood, in this part of Tucson. Everybody's sort of on the lookout for black gloves now. So personally, I'm not putting much weight in. There's just gloves everywhere, it seems like, at this point. So I don't know. We'll see. It didn't look, I couldn't tell exactly that it was blood in the picture that I saw, but we'll have to wait and see.
And I just have to temper this one more time. The glove that they found, that they put in the DNA they put into CODIS, there was something about that glove they thought stood out. The one that was merely.
So that glove, though, that's nowhere relevant. The 2 miles away glove, that bloody glove, neither one of them are relevant. Long Crime Network, though, we do like them. Chris Stewart and Jesse Weber, I like both of them. People should check out that channel too. And I realize that video is just going to be more of like a review of things I've already gone over. But I'm kind of tired. I'm not going to be given as good commentary when I'm tired. Oh, Nancy Grace. I've heard Nancy Grace is not kind to the people that cover her, so. Duncan, is that so? Israel did strike Iran? Interesting. Interesting indeed. Trump didn't go over that much in his State of the Union the other day. Correct, Susan. Or Susanna. I mean, I don't think they have anyone close to the gloves right now. Not at all. Yep, so that apparently is true. Israel struck Iran. Interesting. Interesting times that we live in, Chad, isn't it? Sorry, Corey. I would have to be it's not my fault that she is mean to people that play her. We'll see. We'll try it one day when it's just her. I wouldn't want to ruin an entire stream to have her strike me. Have her strike me down with a thunderbolt. No, she is not no hype. She is not. Now, what I mean, though, Belinda, is with people like me that play her, she doesn't like that very much. That's what I've heard. So for me and my purposes, unfortunately, that is something I have to pay attention to. Because otherwise, I don't have a problem with her at all. People can watch her and do whatever. I have no problems with that. Yes, Carolina, we watched the most recent 2 videos of them at the beginning of this video. Actually, Crime Unresolved, we did. Because even though I think it's an AI channel, I think they did make some interesting points. Yeah, Rooster, that is more like how it would be a test, right? I would do it with just her. It'd be like a short video one day just to see what happens. I'll maybe like do a video. I'll record a video even of me going over it just to see what happens. Smart move, Rooster. Yes, if you're still here, remember to like the video. Likes are free. Likes are for the flock of black sheep, my spirit animal, the shadow, the night owl. I got to think of a name for my spirit animal, the fox. Brian Etton's going to stay there, Tim, until News Nation tells him to not be there anymore. That's how that will go. Well, I do appreciate all the support I've gotten tonight. I think I might have gotten more support tonight than any other live stream. So to me, gratitude is an action word. So I try to show my gratitude any way that I can because hey, people are nice to me here. And in return, I try to be nice to everyone and reward them being kind and generous to me. Nobody knows, Crab. Nobody knows who's at the door. Some people suspect it's Dominic Evans at the door, but that's not a confirmation. You got it, Linda. Indeed, Susanna. Prayers for all the missing people, too. Prayers for Bella as well, by the way. I mean, Bella, her brother was on life support. I don't know if she's lost him or not, but that might have happened. So please send good vibes to Bella and her brother. I don't have a point about Nancy Grace. The only point with Nancy Grace is I won't be able to play her because she doesn't like it when people do. That's all. It's nothing to say about what she does or anything about like how she talks about things. It just impacts my business. That's all. Yeah, Ward, it is. It is. She didn't say for sure, but she mentioned the other day he was on life support, and then she said today they have to go to the funeral home. So you can put 2 and 2 together there, perhaps. Sad. Have a great night, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. Susan, look at all the lovely green names that I see here, which means that you're all members. That's awesome. You can thank Johnny for that if he's still here. We'll try it out though, Warden, because like I said, I like Nancy Grace. She can make some good points. Got nothing against her. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, make sure you comment on the video too once it's posted. That helps as well. And as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, supporting me, liking, helping me get likes, subscribing to the channel, the super chats, super stickers, memberships. It's all very appreciated. Yes, there are, Maureen. We'll do a members only live chat soon. Good night, Jolly. So good night, Maureen. Say thanks to the mods, Song Bits, and Livin. I think Livin might have fell asleep, but that's okay. Livin had a rough day. Riven had a bit of a car accident, she said. She's fine. The car's not as fine, but it's going to cost her a couple shekels. So, all right. Have a good night, Tim. Have a good night, everybody. Till next time. Good night to the flock of black sheep family.